Chapter 229 Yang Jian's longing with the passing of summer and the arrival of autumn, the third medicine valley gradually became tinged with yellow. Yang Jian came before the blood prison great saint, respectfully presenting a platter filled with flowers and fruits. The blood prison great saint lay on the ground and gave him a casual glance. "Is it washed clean?" he asked indifferently. Yang Jian quickly nodded and whispered, "I washed it 3 times. The blood prison great saint lowered his head to sniff, then said, "Not bad. Keep it up, you may go now." Yang Jian stood up, bowed and then retreated. Ever since Guan approved his name, he had been more driven than the other disciples. Not only was he busy with chores in the valley, but he also served the blood prison great saint and the white spirit rat diligently. His industriousness made the other servant disciples feel disdainful, so they gradually began to distance themselves from him. Despite this, he did not feel embarrassed but was instead full of anticipation. He knew full well that with his average talent, if he only did what the other disciples did, he would at most earn a single foundation establishment pill. He believed that even if he reached foundation establishment, it wouldn't change his fate. There were many foundation establishment realm disciples in the outer sect who still remained at the bottom. But if he could gain the favor of the Valley Master, that would be entirely different. Lacking aptitude and connections, Guan represented the greatest opportunity in Yang Jian's eyes. He didn't know how to go about pleasing Guan deliberately, so he used his spare time to take care of Guan's mounts and spirit pets. Yang Jian stood at the wooden fence, looking out over the vast expanse of the Medicine Valley's garden. He wiped the sweat from his face, filled with hopes for the future. Being able to join such a Medicine Valley was already very fortunate. Next, he needed to seize this fortune. Days went by one after another. In late autumn, someone came to visit Guan. It was Wu Ju, whom he hadn't seen in many years. Wu Ju, visiting the third Medicine Valley for the first time, was amazed by its grandeur. "I'm looking for Guan," Wu Ju said, grabbing a person. Coincidentally, that person was Yang Jian. Yang Jian was sweeping the ground and couldn't help but ask, "May I ask for your name, senior? What is your relationship with the Valley Master?" "My name is Wu Ju. Guan and I are brothers. I've been away for many years and came here specifically to see him today," Wu Ju replied. Hearing this, Yang Jian dared not be careless. He asked Wu Ju to wait for a moment and ran all the way to Xiaochuan to report the matter, asking Xiaochuan to make the decision. Xiaochuan then went to Guan's pavilion and relayed the story at the door. In fact, Guan had already sensed Wu Ju's arrival, but since Wu Ju had now cultivated the energy-concealing sorcery, it was hard for him to detect directly. So he waited for his disciples to report it to him. "Bring him over," came Guan's voice from inside the room. Xiaochuan immediately called out to Yang Jian, sending the waiting Yang Jian downstairs on an errand. Just as Yang Jian turned around, Wu Ju suddenly rushed past like a gust of wind, startling him so much that he widened his eyes. He stood there dumbfounded, watching Wu Ju leave a trail of afterimages as he swiftly went upstairs. Even Xiaochuan, who was upstairs, had his hair blown around and stood frozen in place. Wu Ju pushed open the door, saw Guan and smiled, turning around to close the door behind him. Xiaochuan came to his senses and turned to descend the stairs. Yang Jian was still stunned. It wasn't until Xiaochuan beckoned to him that he finally snapped out of it. He didn't inquire about Wu Ju's identity, but in his heart, a great determination ignited. He also wanted to become a great cultivator like Wu Ju. On the other side, inside the room, Guan poured tea for Wu Ju and listened to him recount his experiences over the years. After sitting down and adjusting his mindset, he used lifespan detection on Wu Ju as if he were about to open a blind box. Wu Ju, Nascent Soul Realm, Level 8 124/890/7600, so many years had passed, but Wu Ju's maximum lifespan had not increased, indicating that he hadn't made any breakthroughs in path enlightenment for decades. Guan felt a bit disappointed. He had hoped that Wu Ju could continue his path enlightenment indefinitely. Of course, with Wu Ju's current talent and status, reaching the Nirvana realm before the age of 7,600 wouldn't be difficult. However, Guan thought it a pity that Wu Ju wouldn't reach the ultimate lifespan limit of 9,999 years. Wu Ju didn't notice any change in Guan's expression and continued to talk excitedly about his experiences over the years. Guan listened attentively. The timid boy from back then had now grown to be a capable individual. Hearing him now also made Guan feel somewhat emotional. After a long time, Wu Ju began to speak about his troubles. "The Emperor treats me very well and has tried hard to win me over, but my master also treats me exceptionally, training me without reservation. Now, the Zhou family behind my master is not only in conflict with the Taizong dynasty but is also challenging the supreme sect. Wu Ju spoke with a face full of anguish. He had embarked on the immortal cultivation path at the supreme sect, so he had deep feelings for it. When the Zhou family left the supreme sect, it made things difficult for him. Hence, he chose to serve Li Xiandao to avoid the disputes. But now, with the Zhou family supporting the great Jiang dynasty, a three-way war was imminent, and he faced another decision. This time he had returned to seek Guan's opinion. After hearing this, Guan also felt troubled. Repaying a debt of gratitude was always the hardest. He pondered for a moment and then asked, "Who do you think is the most important?" Wu Ju was silent for a moment before he replied, "In my heart, the supreme sect is definitely the most important. Whether it is my master or the emperor, they chose me only after I had grown up. Without the supreme sect, I wouldn't have met them." He raised his eyes to look at Guan, his gaze gradually becoming resolute. Guan smiled and said, "Since you can make a choice, I won't say more. Regardless of your decision, I will support you." Wu Ju felt a smile spread across his face and sighed, "I have to consider how to face them in the future. It's simple. Don't become their enemy. Support the supreme sect unilaterally. There are many ways to repay them. You don't have to follow orders blindly," Guan reassured him. Wu Ju nodded, then took out various treasures from his storage bag, placing them on the table. "This is the demon extermination elixir, which can prevent the birth of inner demons. This is the sleeve gold sword array. Though small, it can form a large sword array once infused with spiritual power. This is the substitute mouth cricket. It's of no practical use but can speak for you and serve as entertainment. And this top-grade Dharma artifact mist cloud boots allows you to create clouds under your feet and soar through the skies. It was a reward from the emperor for slaying the enemy's general." Wu Ju introduced the treasures one by one. There were 8 in total, each with different uses. After he finished speaking, Guan pretended to decline, but Wu Ju insisted, saying he had received many elixirs from Guan in the past and had to pay him back. After several refusals, Wu Ju glared and said, "Are we not brothers? You must accept these or we can't be brothers anymore." Guan had no choice but to agree reluctantly. "Next time you visit, don't bring so many things. I don't need them and our bond can't be measured by treasures," Guan said seriously. He genuinely didn't want them and hoped Wu Ju wouldn't go to so much trouble. Wu Ju waved his hand and said, "I don't care. When I see good things I think of you. Since you don't venture out and only focus on cultivation, he'll find you all the magic artifacts and secret books you need." Guan smiled and didn't continue the topic. It wasn't until dusk that Wu Ju left, having made up his mind to choose the supreme sect. He intended to see the sect leader next. Guan stood on the balcony watching the direction in which Wu Ju departed. The sunset was beautiful, even nearing twilight. Guan saw Yang Jian staring blankly in the direction Wu Ju had gone. During this time, Yang Jian's performance had been commendable, and in Guan's eyes, he was already halfway towards becoming a disciple. In the future, if Yang Jian became famous and even surpassed Wu Ju, would Wu Ju remember that the minor cultivator who led the way for him today was the renowned Yang Jian? Guan found the thought amusing and a smile appeared on his lips. He noticed that he was developing a mischievous habit of imagining the astonishment of those around him. In the blink of an eye, 5 more years passed. During these 5 years, and Hao broke through to the divinity transformation realm, and Wu Ju reached the 9th level of the nascent soul realm, on the verge of a breakthrough. Since Wu Ju had decided to stay in the supreme sect, he hadn't left the supreme sect. After expressing his intentions to LV Badian was very pleased and began investing substantial resources in him, creating momentum for him. Now Wu Ju was one of the top 3 talents in the supreme sect, holding the position of a true disciple. 127-year-old Guan had a lifespan nearing 16,400,000 years, still far from the billion mark, but he hadn't harvested the high-rank medical herbs from the outer world cave yet. He was eagerly looking forward to those high-rank medical herbs. Throughout these years, Guan occasionally went to Immortal Seeking Island to buy high-rank medical herbs. The number of 7th-order medicinal herbs planted in the outer world cave had exceeded 100,000, and the number of 8th-order medicinal herbs surpassed 10,000. Once all these herbs matured, harvesting them would significantly extend his lifespan. On this day, Guan had just returned from Immortal Seeking Island. He walked into the 3rd Medicine Valley with a slight frown. Recently, more and more loose immortals had been eyeing him, so he needed to consider purchasing medicinal herbs from other islands. The price of a single 7th-order medicinal herb was astronomical. Guan's extensive purchases at Immortal Seeking Island had made him one of their top 10 clients, naturally drawing envy. As Guan passed by the Blood Prison Great Saint, he saw Yang Jian standing nearby, washing the Blood Prison Great Saint. He said, "Don't spoil him. He spends his days lazing around only knowing how to eat and sleep." Yang Jian quickly responded, "It's fine. I don't have anything to do anyway." Guan said no more and quickly went upstairs. The Blood Prison Great Saint, thinking he had upset Guan, quietly said, "Yang Jian, come here." Hearing this, Yang Jian hurried over and squatted in front of him. "Come find me at midnight tonight. I'll teach you a spell," the Blood Prison Great Saint said mysteriously. Yang Jian's expression became strange. "There's no need. I'm not taking care of you for any benefit," he said. What he desired was Guan's favor. What kind of spell could a bull demon teach him? "I don't care. You must come," the Blood Prison Great Saint demanded, and Yang Jian had no choice but to agree. He stood up and left, glancing towards the pavilion where Guan resided. If only it were his master teaching him a spell instead. Inside the room. After sitting down, Guan spread his divine sense, looking towards the ocean trench to the east. This great trench had ceased to extend but still existed across the ocean, frequently drawing great cultivators to observe. Guan sensed the presence of an entity surpassing the wandering immortal realm flying above the ocean trench. The individual displayed their aura recklessly, drawing many divine senses to probe. Chapter 230, Sect Leader's Successor. Guan looked for a while and then withdrew his gaze. Without knowing the other party's intentions, he didn't want to provoke them. The ocean trench had been around for many years without any disaster so far. Guan hoped this tranquility could last long enough to give him time to grow. He picked up the latest volume of the Green Hero Travelogue from the table and started reading. This book was sent by Xian Tianyi, and he had already read it several times. Each reading gave him a different flavor. Xian Tianyi seemed flamboyant and unrestrained, but he was actually meticulous and skilled in writing about women. Night fell. Yang Jian came to the Blood Prison Great Saint's side, wanting to say something but hesitating. The Blood Prison Great Saint stood up and, with a twist of his ox-like butt, dropped a line before leaving, "Follow me." Yang Jian had no choice but to follow. Well, maybe by appeasing it, it will mess with me less in the future, Yang Jian thought silently, his mood improving. The man and ox arrived in a forest a dozen miles away. The forest was vast, echoing with the sounds of insects. The Blood Prison Great Saint turned around to face Yang Jian, then started cultivating energy. In an instant, his red ox hair began to flow like burning blood flames, and a fierce aura erupted from his body. Huh. Yang Jian's eyes widened, his whole being becoming alert. This aura? Could this lazy ox really know spells? The Blood Prison Great Saint let out a deep ox roar, making Yang Jian feel an explosion by his ear, his brain buzzing. It took him a while to recover, looking at the Blood Prison Great Saint in horror. The Great Saint still maintained his aura, looking especially menacing in the night. Yang Jian's gaze towards the Blood Prison Great Saint became fervent. The Blood Prison Great Saint raised his ox head and said, "This is a spell of the Blood Prison divine skill called the Blood Prison Roar. If you train to a minor achievement realm, it can cause the enemy's divine soul to become unsettled in battle. If perfected, it could kill enemies with a roar." So powerful. I want to learn. I want to learn. Yang Jian felt ignited, the image of the Blood Prison Great Saint completely transforming in his eyes. The Blood Prison Great Saint, full of pride, said, "Cultivating the Blood Prison Roar isn't easy. Are you ready for hardship?" "I'm not afraid of hardship," Yang Jian said firmly. The Blood Prison Great Saint grinned. Under Guan's divine sense, he found an ox smiling to be quite eerie. This guy didn't have any ill intentions, right? Autumn and winter passed and the new spring arrived. The Third Medicine Valley began preparing for the spring festival once again. On this day Wuju arrived, but Guan wasn't there, so he wandered around the valley. He saw the minor cultivator who had previously guided him carrying water, so he walked over and asked with a smile, "Little brother, aren't you a cultivator? Why are you carrying water yourself?" Yang Jian's eyes lit up when he saw Wuju. He hadn't forgotten Wuju's movement technique from that day, ethereal like an immortal. He replied, "This is our form of cultivation method." His voice was hoarse, speaking haltingly, making Wuju uncomfortable to listen to. "What happened to your voice?" Wuju asked with a frown. Yang Jian answered, "From practicing." Wuju shook his head with a smile, patted Yang Jian on the shoulder and turned to leave. The reason Wu Ju remembered Yang Jian was that before leaving last time, Guan had asked him about his thoughts on Yang Jian. Being remembered by Guan, he naturally developed a bit of interest in Yang Jian. But now it seemed this boy's talent was quite mediocre, with almost no advancement in cultivation over the years. Yang Jian didn't know what Wu Ju was thinking. Just being asked by him already made him very happy. Wu Ju continued wandering in the valley. An hour later he sensed Guan's aura. But when he turned his head, he frowned. There were actually two women beside Guan. Why isn't it Miss Shen? Wu Ju wondered. He always thought Guan and Shenzhen liked each other, but now seeing Guan chatting and laughing with two women beside him, he felt upset. Brother Gu was letting down Miss Shen. Guan with Yilan and Zhen Qin flew in. The two women were curious about the scene in the Third Medicine Valley, constantly asking questions, and he answered with a smile. After landing, Wu Ju approached, pointing at Zhen Qin and asked, "Guan, who is this?" His tone was sharp, making Zhen Qin look at him in confusion. He knew Yilan, Guan's junior sister, but seeing Zhen Qin clinging to Guan's arm made him feel uneasy. Zhen Qin's eyes lit up and said, "Are you Wu Ju?" Yilan nodded and said, "Yes, he is the true disciple who has recently become famous in the Supreme Sect, Wu Ju." Seeing Wu Ju, she felt very emotional. At the Golden List conference, she met Wu Ju through Guan. Back then Wu Ju surprised her, but she didn't expect him to achieve so much today. Why did geniuses always appear around senior brother? Guan smiled and said, "This is my disciple Zhen Qin. Let's go inside and talk." Hearing this, Wu Ju's expression softened. "When is Miss Shen coming?" Wu Ju asked. He always believed that Guan and Shenzhen were meant to be together. Guan casually replied, "How would I know when she will come?" Hearing this, Zhen Qin's eyes darted between Guan and Wu Ju, thinking about something. The four of them headed towards the pavilion, Zhen Qin continuously asking Wu Ju questions enthusiastically, making Wu Ju a bit shy. Before they reached the pavilion, a figure flew in quickly. Guan silently thought, "Oh no. Miss Shen." Wu Ju called out excitedly and waved at Shenzhen. Yilan and Zhen Qin looked towards Shenzhen. She wore a white dress with a veil on her face, looking like a celestial being with an outstanding temperament. Shenzhen landed beside Zhen Qin and smiled, "Wu Ju, long time no see." She was often in seclusion and didn't know about Wu Ju's reputation over the years. She looked at Yilan and Zhen Qin full of curiosity. Guan pretended to be calm and began introducing them to each other. The three women exchanged pleasantries, creating a harmonious atmosphere, but Guan could feel the undercurrent. "I didn't expect it, Guan, you have so many female confidants?" Yu Yingying suddenly approached, asking excitedly. Wu Ju's loud voice had drawn her attention. Seeing the three women surrounding Guan and chatting, while Wu Ju maintained a polite distance, she felt there was a good show to watch. Guan turned black-faced and said, "Don't talk nonsense." Yilan looked at Yu Yingying and asked, "Who is this?" So senior brother's previous jokes were true, many female disciples in the valley liked him. "Im Yu Yingying working for Guan?" Yu Yingying said with a smile. No one believed her, as how could an errand girl call the valley master by name? Yu Yingying continued, "I forgot to tell you, Senior Lu should be coming back for the festival." Guan kept a straight face and said, "Let her come back if she wants to." Yilan squinted her eyes and asked, "Is Senior Lu a man or woman?" Yu Yingying said, "A woman, Lu Lingjun. You should have heard of her. She's a great cultivator in the mystic heart realm." Yilan and Zhen Qin's faces changed. They had indeed heard of Lu Lingjun, but didn't expect her to be connected with Gu, and Shenzhen's eyes curved in a smile, looking appreciatively at Yu Yingying. "What a talent. I like her." Guan took Yilan's hand and walked towards the pavilion, saying, "My junior sister is here for the first time, I need to attend to her." Yilan's face blushed, Zhen Qin hurriedly followed, feeling victorious. She proudly gave Yu Yingying a challenging look. Yu Yingying glared at Zhen Qin before turning to leave. Shenzhen tacitly followed suit without a word. Wu Ju stood in place, watching the backs of the three women. After thinking it over, he decided not to follow them. If they really start fighting, he would step in to protect Guan. No wonder Brother Gu doesn't cultivate, too busy tending to his peach blossoms. Indeed, Master is right. Women are obstacles on the immortal cultivation path, they are inner demons. Wu Ju shook his head and continued strolling through the valley. Upstairs in the room, Guan poured tea for the three women. Yilan started chatting with Shenzhen. Having worked in the law enforcement hall for many years, she was adept at handling people and situations, making the conversation lively and pleasant among the three women, appearing like close friends. After Guwen sat down, Shenzhen asked, "After Journey to the West, will you write another book? I want to read about Sun Wukong becoming the victorious fighting Buddha." Yilan and Jin Qin already knew Guwen was Panin, but still looked at him curiously, eager for his answer. Jin Qin looked at Guwen, marveling inwardly. Her master's cultivation talent might be mediocre, but his writing was extraordinary. By now, more and more people knew Guwen was the author, so he didn't mind Shenzhen revealing his identity intentionally. After all, his apparent cultivation level was no longer weak, and he could defend himself. No more writing, busy researching other minor arts. Guwen answered casually. Shenzhen felt a bit disappointed and began praising Journey to the West, saying it was better than the Investiture of the Gods and more meaningful. She felt Journey to the West was critiquing something. Yilan also joined in the discussion about Journey to the West, while Jin Qin gazed at Guwen with admiration, realizing its impact had even surpassed the Investiture of the Gods. An hour later, another guest arrived at the valley, freeing Guwen somewhat. LV Badian. LV Badian entered the room, and Yilan and Jin Qin quickly stood up to greet him. They were already true disciples and had naturally met LV Badian before. Shenzhen also greeted LV Badian courteously. You all go out and have a look around. I have something to discuss with Guwen, LV Badian said indifferently, but he laughed inwardly. This kid was impressive, having so many peach blossoms, not inferior to my younger days. Jin Qin couldn't help but curiously ask, "Sect leader, are you very familiar with my master?" LV Badian looked at her, knowing she was Guwen's disciple, then laughed, "Of course. He is my appointed successor to the sect leader. During the Golden List Conference, the world's #1 Sword Dao tournament, the Alchemy Conference and so on, it was all his idea. From now on you can call me Martial Master." Upon hearing this, the three women widened their eyes. Guwen silently thought, this is bad. Shenzhen also felt surprised. She knew Guwen was close with LV Badian, thinking it was because of Panan's identity. She didn't expect LV Badian to hold Guwen in such high regard. Seeing Guwen's expression, LV Badian was amused and said, "Never mind, you all stay and listen." The three women quickly thanked him. Their gazes towards Guwen made him uneasy. Chapter 231. The world-destroying catastrophe is coming. LV Badian sat down, then began to ask Guwen about what kind of event to hold next to make it more attractive. Yilan, Jin Qin, and Shenzhen stood by, listening. They were also curious about how Guwen strategized for LV Badian. Guwen pondered and said, "The Supreme Sect has already held numerous events. Although the types are changing for the vast majority of disciples, there isn't much participation. Other sects have started to imitate us, making it hard to increase our influence no matter what kind of event we hold." LV Badian nodded, troubled by this situation himself. Other sects were not fools. Seeing the Supreme Sect to profit, they also began to hold similar events. Especially with Sangtian Sect joining, cultivators across the land flocked to them, significantly reducing the Supreme Sect's appeal. To this day, Sangtian Sect remained the top sect in the immortal cultivation world of the three dynasties. Shenzhen also fell into deep thought. Although the Great Yu dynasty was no more, the Daotian sect remained. Now, having established close ties with the Supreme Sect, the better the Supreme Sect's development, the more it benefited Daotian sect. Guwen continued, "Actually we're in the best position. We have 2 Mahayana realm cultivators and the mysterious sword Venerable Fudao. On this point, Sangtian sect cannot compete. If you want to surpass Sangtian sect, why not hold a Tianbang tournament? No age limit, no cultivation realm limit, combat to determine the top 100 ranks. As long as we announce it, the world's cultivators will be shaken. Sects that don't dare participate will only be ridiculed. If Sangtian sect doesn't dare to participate, they will be deemed weaker than our Supreme Sect in the eyes of the world's cultivators. If they participate, then let it be a normal competition to see if their Taoist lord can defeat Senior Shen and Senior Qiao." LV Badian's eyes lit up upon hearing this, but he still hesitated, saying, "Mahayana realm combat, if it gets intense, how do we control it?" Guwen thought for a moment and said, "How about holding it in the outer sect? We can use Sword Venerable to deter them." LV Badian frowned, still hesitant. The Supreme Sect's high-level members also had reservations about Sword Venerable. They didn't know what Sword Venerable's intentions were or his origins. Previously, they fantasized that Sword Venerable was an ascetic trained by the Supreme Sect, hiding his cultivation level, unknown to anyone. But as immortals continued to appear in their vision, they realized that the Supreme Sect's soil couldn't nurture such an existence. Sword Venerable was simply too powerful, forcing them to recognize reality. If the sect leader fears angering Sword Venerable, we can allocate part of the Tianbang tournament's proceeds to the Heavenly Repair Platform as a tribute to Sword Venerable, showing our sincerity, Guan suggested. LV Batian hesitated and asked, "Is that all right?" Guan continued, "You can inquire in front of the Heaven-Cutting Axe. Sword Venerable is an immortal. He will surely hear you. As long as you explain the stakes clearly, he should tacitly allow it. After the Tianbang tournament is held, as long as the Supreme Sect cultivators retain the top position, other sects won't be able to host their own Tianbang tournaments, since only the top sect in the world has the qualification to host it. If Zhangtian sect cannot secure the top position, their morale will also suffer. Like the previous Golden List tournament, the Tianbang must be recorded. It's best to distribute it to the world's cultivators without charging spirit stone fees, to spread its influence first. The second Tianbang tournament can then collect spirit stone fees for profit. As long as the Supreme Sect made this announcement, the matter would be settled. Throughout history, no sect dared to do it despite thinking of it. Gathering the world's top cultivators within their sect to compete for supremacy could easily spiral out of control, possibly leading to total destruction. The Supreme Sect was different, as they had the balance-breaking existence of Sword Venerable Fudao. Shenzhen couldn't help but say, "This plan is indeed devious. No sect in the world can refuse. Even if they know they can't secure the top position, they have to participate." The more LV Batian thought about it, the more feasible it seemed. As long as the Supreme Sect secured the top spot, they could still attract great cultivators in the future. What if cultivators from the Holy Land or overseas participate? What do we do then? LV Batian hesitatedly asked. Guan smiled and said, "Wouldn't that further prove the Supreme Sect's influence? Even cultivators from the Holy Land couldn't resist participating. As long as our people's ranks are the highest within the three-dynasty immortal cultivation world, that'll be sufficient." LV Batian found it reasonable and began to discuss the specific details with Guan. Mere slogans wouldn't suffice. There had to be tangible benefits to attract more cultivators to participate. Yilan watched Guan and LV Batian discuss matters involving the world's great trends. She felt sentimental. As expected, her senior brother was destined not to be an ordinary person. Zhen Qin, on the other hand, didn't think much. She was already fantasizing about the Tianbang tournament. Who wouldn't want to be the world's number one? Though she had no qualification to compete, she still wanted to know who was the number one in the immortal cultivation world. An ancient hour later, LV Batian hurriedly left, not even celebrating the new year. Guan took the three women downstairs to enjoy the New Year's atmosphere with the disciples. The disciples in the Medicine Valley even set up a market, making it very lively. As dusk approached, Lu Lingjun returned. The gap in cultivation between her and Yilan and the other two women was vast, so there was no conflict. Distracted, she paid no attention to their relationship with Guan. Guan first went back to Mystic Valley, drank with the disciples, and returned to the third Medicine Valley to continue celebrating with the others. The next morning, guests left, and the disciples resumed their busy routines. Lu Lingjun also left Medicine Valley, flying towards the main city of the sect. One night, several days later, Guan saw LV Batian leading several dozen members of the Hall of Elders to the Heaven-Cutting Axe. They set up a formation to prevent other disciples and cultivators on the platform from hearing them. After explaining the Tianbang tournament, the Heaven-Cutting Axe remained silent, and they took this as Sword Venerable Fudeo's tacit approval. Guan had already begun to look forward to the benefits the Tianbang tournament could bring. He could buy many high-rank medicinal herbs. The second morning, Gu Zong brought a large group of cultivators to find Lu Lingjun. These cultivators had a minimum cultivation level of Void Crossing Realm, numbering over 100. Lu Lingjun immediately took this group of disciples southward. Gu Zong exchanged pleasantries with Guan before leaving. Guan didn't ask what Lu Lingjun was up to. There's no need to guess. It's obvious it was about overseas ascenders. 1 month later, the Supreme Sect announced the Tianbang tournament, and notices about the tournament quickly covered every city in the immortal cultivation world. At the same time, LV Batian sent out invitations to various sects, acting first and reporting later. The world was shaken. The higher-ups of the various sects cursed the Supreme Sect's shamelessness, but the lower and middle-level cultivators were exhilarated. Many were curious, aside from Sword Venerable Fudao, who was truly the world's number one. Sword Venerable, being too powerful, was considered an outsider by the cultivators of the three dynasties. The local world's #1 had never been definitively determined. When Guan rode the blood prison great saint into the outer city, the disciples passing by discussed this matter excitedly. Yang Jian, who was following beside the blood prison great saint, also felt his blood boiling. He wondered if he would ever have a chance to be on the Tianbang in this lifetime. Throughout the journey, Yang Jian saw Guan greeting people frequently. He knew many, including cultivators with their subordinates, which made Yang Jian admire Guan even more. This morning, Guan had Xiaochuan send word to Yang Jian, saying he would take him to the outer gate city, thrilling him. It meant Guan was truly accepting him. Not just him, other servant disciples also thought so, which led to many imitating him, gathering around the white spirit rat, leaving an Xan helpless. Yang Jian, are you willing to truly become my disciple? Guan suddenly asked, making the daydreaming Yang Jian freeze. He asked reflexively, what? Guan glanced at him, giving him a fright that drenched him in cold sweat. Fool, the master is asking if you are willing to truly become his disciple, the blood prison great saint said mockingly. It was his way of caring for Yang Jian. Yang Jian had served him for 5 years, so he naturally had a liking for him and wanted to help him. Others might not know Guan's true cultivation level, but the blood prison great saint knew very well. The strongest person in the supreme sect was Guan. He even suspected that the mysterious sword venerable Fu Dao was Guan. I am willing. I am willing. Master, please accept my bow. Yang Jian was overjoyed and knelt in the street. The passing disciples all looked at him with strange expressions. Guan didn't feel embarrassed accepting his bow. After he kowtowed 3 times, he led him up. The blood prison great saint continued forward, and Yang Jian followed closely, trembling with excitement. He had been in the Third Medicine Valley for 5 years. In his mind, Guan was highly esteemed. Although Guan seemed to only be at the core formation realm, there were actually Mystic Heart realm great cultivators hidden in the valley, leading him to imagine many things. The blood prison great saint glanced at the trembling Yang Jian, feeling a bit sour. What? This kid seemed unremarkable and extremely ordinary. This kind of person could be Guan's disciple, while he, an invincible ascender in the mortal world, could only be a mount. The blood prison great saint felt conflicting emotions. If he hadn't been so reckless when he first ascended, hadn't hunted down Li Ya and Zhang Buku, he wouldn't have ended up like this. But then he thought, if not for those incidents, even after 1,000 years of cultivation, he might not have encountered a great cultivator like Guan. Even if he did, he would probably be killed. He considered it a blessing in disguise. He can have many disciples, but if I am his only mount, it would be different, the blood prison great saint thought, getting excited again. As the saying goes, beating a dog depends on the owner's face. Spit. Disciples eventually graduate, but a mount is a lifelong bond. Even if Guan freed him 1,000 years later, he would pledge loyalty, saying he would always be Guan's mount. He wanted Guan to be his backing in the great heavenly spirit land. The more the blood prison great saint thought about it, the more excited he became. His ox body began to tremble. Guan looked down at him and then at Yang Jian. He suddenly worried that Yang Jian might be led astray by the blood prison great saint, as his mind didn't seem stable. Just then, a shabbily dressed old man stopped the blood prison great saint. He looked at Guan, his eyes wide, rambling, the mortal disaster is coming, the ocean will engulf everything, the apocalypse is nearing. The blood prison great saint stopped, eyeing him suspiciously. Yang Jian also glanced at him, drawn by his words. The old man finished speaking, turned, and stopped other passing cultivators saying the same things. Chapter 232. First Heaven's Pride. Watching the old man crazily preach about the apocalypse, the cultivators passing by on the street couldn't help but discuss, most of them not taking it seriously, just curious about where this old man came from to dare be so presumptuous at the supreme sect. Guan remained half skeptical. The ocean would swallow everything? He had heard such legends before. On the ocean, these kinds of legends were not uncommon. Moreover, in recent years, a large rift had mysteriously appeared on the ocean, making it hard for him not to believe. I am only 127 years old, why so much hardship? Guan thought helplessly, but the previous demon calamity was not a disaster for the mortal world, just a scheme by the immortal cultivation forces, and such things were by no means rare in this world. This time he hoped the ocean calamity wasn't targeting him or the Three Dynasties' lands. If that's the case, he would have to think more, wondering if the heavenly Tao was scheming against him. Indeed, he shouldn't get too involved in the mortal world. Could his way of crazily growing stronger without crossing tribulations be seen as an anomaly by the heavenly Tao? To eliminate an anomaly without knowing where it is, it simply launches an apocalypse. For all beings, a calamity is a catastrophe, but for heaven and earth itself, it's just a major cleansing. Lost in thought, Guan soon saw that old man being seized by a disciple of the law enforcement hall, still shouting as he was taken away, "The ocean will swallow everything." This small episode didn't stay in many people's minds. Compared to such crazy talk, the disciples were more concerned about the heavenly rankings tournament. The title of number one in the world stirred the hearts of countless cultivators. Guan wasn't too worried either. This old man didn't have an extraordinary limit to his lifespan, nor did he hide his realm. He was merely at Foundation Establishment realm cultivation level. He brought Yang Jian to the Elixir Hall, instructing him to observe carefully and listen, as he might help him with tasks in the future. This made Yang Jian both excited and nervous, worried about making mistakes and disappointing Guan. It wasn't until evening that they finally returned to the Medicine Valley. Spring passed and summer came, and Guan crossed the threshold of 128 years old. The Heavenly Rankings tournament had already spread throughout the world, but the exact start time was not yet determined. With the operation of the Supreme Sect, over 90% of the cultivators in the lands of the three dynasties knew about it. Who is number one in the world became a hot topic for cultivators during their leisure time. On this day, Guan came to the Immortal-seeking island. As soon as he arrived, he heard someone discussing the millennial Great Sea Tide. Legend has it that once every millennia, the ocean will rise and flood land masses, lasting for hundreds of years before it subsides. Not every Great Sea Tide is the same. In severe cases, it could flood the entire mortal world, a phenomenon that happens once in a million years. Today's cultivators couldn't calculate how far it had been since the last apocalypse-level sea tide, but precisely because they couldn't calculate it, they were in a state of panic. Everywhere on the ocean, people were proclaiming that the apocalypse-level sea tide was imminent. These people came from different sects, claiming to have sensed the world's omens and saw the apocalyptic visions in their dreams while cultivating. Weaker cultivators might even undergo deviation and become insane. Some even linked it to the oceanic rift that appeared before, suggesting it might be a sign of the apocalypse-level sea tide. When Guan found Hu Shaojin also brought up the matter, his face full of worry. The world is truly in chaos now. First, there was the conflict between the seven-star spirit realm and the star sea congregations, battles occurring everywhere. Now there's an imminent apocalypse-level sea tide. We truly live in the worst of times, Hu Shaojin sighed. Guan comforted, nothing is certain yet, don't overthink. Though the news was spreading widely, the sea level hadn't risen, at least not affecting the mainland of the three dynasties' lands. According to legend, before an apocalypse-level sea tide erupts, there would be a build-up period of hundreds of years that all living beings in the mortal world can sense. It's said that during this period, the spiritual energy of the sea would burst forth, enriching the entire world's spiritual energy, accelerating the cultivation speed of all beings, as if a small mercy from heaven and earth. If one could leave this world during this period, they could escape the calamity. But that's only applicable to high-level cultivators. To achieve heaven and earth flying immortal within those few hundred years, one would at least need to be at the wandering immortal realm. Guan and Hu Shaojin wandered the streets, chatting as they walked. Suddenly, a figure appeared before them, a woman in yellow attire, her demeanor dignified with an extraordinary aura, and her appearance also top-notch. Her cultivation level reached the mystic heart realm. "May I ask if you are Senior Meng Lang? My lord wishes to invite you as a guest." "My lord is Sage Tang Hai," the woman in yellow said respectfully. Using a mystic heart realm female cultivator as a maid? Such a grand gesture. As Guan was thinking, Hu Shaojin quietly introduced, "Sage Tang Hai is an honorary elder of the Sea Protection Mansion on Immortal-seeking Island, known for his righteous actions and good reputation." The implication was that he could be trusted. Guan glanced at Hu Shaojin before looking at the woman in yellow and said, "Lead the way." He cast a lifespan detection on the woman in yellow. With a lifespan limit just over 2,000, she would be considered a girl of heavenly pride on the mainland, only to be a maid on Immortal-seeking Island. The woman in yellow gracefully bowed and then turned to lead the way. Half an hour later, they entered a mansion. Hu Shaojin chose not to go inside, waiting at the gate instead. Tang Hai Mansion was large, with many servants whose lowest cultivation level was at the nascent soul realm. Led by the woman in yellow, Guan arrived at a courtyard where he saw a man in blue attire sitting at a table, sipping tea with a scholarly and elegant air. Sage Tang Hai, Loose Immortal Realm 5th Layer 8908/27000/27500. The woman in yellow stopped her steps, bowed to Sage Tang Hai and then left. Sage Tang Hai looked at Guan and stood up to clasp his fists in salute. Taoist friend, I apologize if my invitation disturbs you. Guan approached the table, raising his hand in return salute. No worries, I have nothing much to do anyway. Then both of them sat down and began to chat. After some casual conversation, Sage Tang Hai finally said, Taoist friend, the number of heavenly materials and earthly treasures you've purchased over the years is staggering, and many people are inquiring about you. But rest assured, no one dares to cause trouble on Immortal Seeking Island. I've also helped you block some of them. Guan didn't understand his meaning and could only follow along, thanking him. The strongest on Immortal Seeking Island had only the cultivation level of Wandering Immortal Realm. Guan didn't really regard anyone there seriously. Recently, the news of the apocalypse level sea tide has been rampant. Whether it's true or not, the world is in turmoil. If we cultivators can band together for warmth, that would be the best. 10 years from now, I plan to hold a private auction here, even offering an Immortal Path Spirit Tree. If Taoist friend is interested, you can attend it. The actual trading price will count 70% of the final transaction price. Consider it my gift to Taoist friend as a meeting token, Sage Tang Hai said, stroking his beard with a smile that gave a comforting feeling like a spring breeze. Guan heard this and smiled, thanking him again. An Immortal Path Spirit Tree? He was indeed very interested. The highest grade spirit tree he had was only of the 9th rank. He couldn't imagine what wonders an Immortal Path Spirit Tree would hold. Seeing Guan agree, Sage Tang Hai became more enthusiastic. The two chatted for a long time, with Sage Tang Hai revealing his desire to form a small circle of loose immortals, to explore and venture into the ancient Immortal Path secret realm together. After a full hour, Guan finally left Tang Hai Mansion. Hu Xiaojian followed without saying a word. The first wisp of autumn breeze blew into the third Medicine Valley. Yang Jian stood in front of the wooden railing, staring blankly at the pavilion where Guan lived. It had been a while since he apprenticed under Guan, yet nothing in his life had changed. Guan hadn't taught him any cultivation techniques or spells, causing him some agony. He was already 21 years old, and his cultivation remained at the 3rd layer of the energy cultivation realm, making him very anxious. He heard that the number 1 genius of the Supreme Sect, and Hao, had already reached the Foundation Establishment realm at his age. Time passed as he daydreamed. As dusk fell, Yang Jian washed a batch of fruits and carried them on a large wooden tray to the Blood Prison Great Saint's side. Just as he was about to leave, a voice came from the pavilion, Jianer, wait for me downstairs after nightfall. Upon hearing this, Yang Jian became excited, quickly bowing to the pavilion. He didn't shout loudly, fearing other disciples might hear. An hour later, wearing clean clothes, Yang Jian stood in front of the stairs, his eyes occasionally glancing towards the window upstairs. Blood Prison Great Saint found it amusing, teasing him now and then, making him blush, not knowing how to respond. Suddenly the door upstairs opened and Yang Jian immediately stood straight. Guan descended the stairs and headed towards the transmission array platform. Yang Jian quickly followed and Blood Prison Great Saint also trailed behind. The two of them, along with the ox, used the teleportation array to reach the Mystic Valley and then headed towards the deserted mountains and forests. Seeing Guan riding on the ox's back, Yang Jian felt very nervous. He wanted to ask his master when he would teach him cultivation techniques but was afraid of being rude. They walked through the night. By dawn, Yang Jian was in a daze. Guan made Blood Prison Great Saint stop. Beside them was a large river, the water so clear that they could see small fish and crabs. Guan looked at the rising sun and asked, Jianer, do you wish for superior cultivation techniques? Yang Jian awkwardly scratched his head and said, if such exists, I naturally want it. Guan didn't dislike his utilitarian nature. He looked at Yang Jian and asked, what are you willing to sacrifice for immortal cultivation? He planned to nurture Yang Jian well and keep him close, a treatment even in Hao didn't receive. Yang Jian was stunned for a moment and said, I have nothing, but I desire only immortal cultivation, even if it costs my life. Guan said calmly, your root and bones are special, making energy absorption difficult. You should feel it too. Upon hearing this, Yang Jian's face instantly darkened. His aptitude was not merely humble, even in the 3rd Medicine Valley, it was considered low tier. After many years in the valley, he hadn't even broken through a single minor stage, which made him yearn even more for higher-level cultivation techniques. I can transform you into a genius, but you must endure unimaginable pain, perhaps even facing physical destruction. Are you willing? Guan fixed his gaze on Yang Jian, his tone indifferent. Facing his master's gaze, Yang Jian felt inexplicably flustered. Master, are you scaring your disciple? Yang Jian asked cautiously. Physical destruction sounded terrifying. Guan said, changing one's fate against the heavens isn't easy. If you fear, I won't force you. I will still teach you appropriate cultivation techniques and spells, but your path will progress slowly. Yang Jian asked, Master, has any other senior brother or sister succeeded? Guan shook his head and said, I've truly taken only 2 disciples. The others are just given elixirs, and your senior brother is already a world-renowned genius. World-renowned? Yang Jian opened his mouth, filled with confusion. Isn't the master at the core formation realm? How does he have such a powerful disciple? World-renowned? Could he compare to the legendary first genius of the Supreme Sect, and how? Chapter 233. What realm is above the heaven and earth? Flying Immortal Guan saw through Yang Jian's thoughts but didn't explain and instead waited for his choice. Yang Jian's bones were special and required vast amounts of spiritual energy for body tempering. This process was bound to be painful, so Guan let him choose. No matter how strong the aptitude, without a firm will, the road ahead would be difficult. The blood prison great saint looked at Yang Jian mockingly, wanting to see how the boy would choose. Yang Jian clenched his teeth and said, Yang Jian from Investiture of the Gods was able to split a mountain to save his mother and fight against the heavens. Since I've renamed myself Yang Jian, I can't disgrace his name. Even if it means my body is shattered to pieces, I will have no regrets. Master, please help me defy destiny. With that, he knelt down suddenly. Guan's lips curved upwards, and Yang Jian felt a terrifying force envelop him, sending chills down his spine. Before he could think further, he felt the world suddenly shift, causing his internal organs to quiver. The next second, the world returned to normal and he felt his feet touch the ground. The intense sense of weightlessness made him almost want to vomit. He supported himself on the ground and instinctively looked up to see his master still sitting on the Bull Demon King's back. He couldn't help but sigh in relief. He opened his mouth and asked, Master, just now? Before he could finish his sentence, a sea breeze blew, instantly clearing his mind. He stood up and turned around, dumbfounded by what he saw. What did he see? The sea? How is that possible? Yang Jian looked towards the vast ocean in front of him, utterly stunned. Though he had never seen the ocean, he had heard old stories saying it was larger than a lake, boundless, like another world. The blood prison great saint had felt the limitless freedom step before, but each time it left him astonished. This divine skill was truly unbelievable. Without any warning, it was so fast that even he, a Mahayana realm cultivator, couldn't react. Guan dismounted from the bull and walked towards the island's interior, saying, Follow me. Yang Jian snapped out of his stupor and quickly followed Guan. The blood prison great saint also followed, curious about how Guan planned to help Yang Jian defy destiny. Could such a mediocre talent truly transform into a favored son of heaven? He was filled with doubt. Yang Jian's feelings were complex, a mix of excitement and trepidation. Just from that earlier display, he could tell that his master was definitely not a core formation realm cultivator. In other words, his master's words were true. He could defy destiny, but he would have to face bone-crushing pain. The mere thought of it made his legs tremble. Guan noticed Yang Jian's state but didn't offer any comfort because Yang Jian would have to face it eventually. After walking into the forest, Yang Jian's attention was diverted. He found the spiritual energy here incredibly abundant, and the creatures on the island seemed unusual. He saw a blue-furred rabbit as fast as lightning. There were also snakes resembling white jade, spiders like gemstones, and long creatures hovering in midair like sea dragons. All these new sights stimulated his senses. After walking for an hour, Guan finally stopped at a lakeside deep within the forest. He stood by the lake, took out a great cauldron and started a fire. Yang Jian watched as Guan pointed with his right hand, shooting out a blue flame, feeling an even deeper sense of awe. Master, what realm are you in? Yang Jian braved himself to ask. Guan casually replied, Loose Immortal realm. What is a loose immortal? Chi cultivation, foundation establishment, core formation, nascent soul, divinity transformation, void crossing, unification, mystic heart, Mahayana. These are the 9 ranks of the mortal realm. Beyond that is the immortal path realm. Nirvana is the first step on the immortal path, and loose immortal is the second step. Guan explained, and Yang Jian gasped in shock. The Blood Prison Great Saint also learned about the Immortal Path realm for the first time. Was his master really only 2 major realms above him? The Blood Prison Great Saint suspected Guan was hiding something. Fortunately, Yang Jian, the innocent one, asked the question he wanted to ask. What realm is above loose immortal? That is something you will have to seek out yourself in the future. Guan answered. While he intended to reveal part of his strength, he couldn't fully expose himself. There always had to be some reserve. He had recently been contemplating breaking through to a higher realm. In case a world-destroying sea tide erupted, he feared the heaven and earth flying immortal technique wouldn't suffice. He wasn't too worried though. If the mortal world were ever submerged, he could escape to outer heaven or open a grotto heaven under the sea, bringing those close to him into a minor heaven and earth of his own creation. Yang Jian continued to inquire about the differences between the various realms, and Guan patiently answered, gradually emboldening Yang Jian. He suddenly felt that his master wasn't as terrifying as he had initially thought and was actually quite gentle. In reality, Guan treated all his disciples gently, including him, but his desire to depend on Guan brought inevitable pressure. After Guan had finished preparing the medicinal herbs, he instructed Yang Jian to enter the medicine cauldron. Yang Jian asked if he needed to undress, and Guan replied that it wasn't necessary. Ordinary robes couldn't block spiritual energy. Yang Jian sat inside the medicine cauldron, extremely nervous, clutching the corners of his robe tightly, with cold sweat the size of beans dripping from his forehead. The Blood Prison Great Saint stood up, placing his hooves on the edge of the medicine cauldron, and said, Boy, the path of immortal cultivation is arduous. Many times you just need to think about holding on a little longer, just a little longer, and the pain you're enduring will soon pass. Yang Jian took a deep breath, looked at the Blood Prison Great Saint and asked, Senior Nyo, may I ask what realm you are in? Since his master was a loose immortal, the Bull Demon King as his master's mount, must be incredibly strong. Otherwise, why would his master only bring him along? The Blood Prison Great Saint looked at Guan, saw him nod, then turned back, smiling proudly and said, I am at the Mahayana realm's 8th floor, and am not just a bull demon. I am the Blood Prison Great Saint who ascended from the lower realm. He recounted his glorious history endlessly, leaving Yang Jian with his mouth agape. The Mahayana realm's 8th floor. He knew that the supreme sect had only 2 Mahayana realm cultivators in name. Who would have thought that the bull raised by his master was at the Mahayana realm? Yang Jian was dazzled by the immense joy, feeling as if he were dreaming. Guan instructed the Blood Prison Great Saint to step aside, and the Blood Prison Great Saint had no choice but to shut up and move away, showing none of the bearing of a Mahayana realm cultivator. Guan took out an elixir and handed it to Yang Jian, saying, After consuming this, follow the mental method I described and cultivate your energy. I will guide you in your training. No matter how much it hurts, you must follow my guidance to absorb energy. Otherwise you will perish and not even an immortal Daluo can save you. Yang Jian was about to ask what an immortal Daluo was when he saw Guan turn away. He could only toss the elixir into his mouth. The moment it entered, it dissolved and Yang Jian felt his throat burning, his body suddenly heating up. At this moment, Guan's voice reached his ears using the sound transmission skill, along with a domineering force entering his body, guiding him to absorb nature's spiritual energy. Guan was teaching the All Things Form and Energy art. The All Things Form and Energy art originated and continually elevated from the energy nurturing skill. It was fundamentally a body tempering technique. Although Guan rarely engaged in close combat, his physique was robust. Furthermore, the All Things Form and Energy art could conceal one's aura, making it perfect for Yang Jian to hide his strength in the future. Guan wasn't worried about Yang Jian revealing the technique, as he himself would inevitably upgrade it further. Yang Jian began absorbing energy following the power within him while keeping his master's mental method in mind. As time passed, the medicinal soup in the cauldron started to boil. Yang Jian's skin turned hot red, but the pain in his skin was insignificant compared to the agony of tearing in his bones and muscles. Bang! Pain beyond imagination. The sensation of thousands of insects gnawing at bones, tearing muscles, couldn't begin to describe this agony. His master's voice constantly echoed in his ears, making him feel less afraid. With his master present, he felt inexplicably reassured. Just like the Blood Prison Great Saint had said, hold on a little longer and soon it would be over. The pain intensified and gradually he began gritting his teeth. His hair fluttered, veins bulged on his face, and his body was drenched, making it hard to distinguish between sweat and medicinal fluid. Crunch! His body suddenly made a hair-raising sound as if bones were grinding against each other. Even the Blood Prison Great Saint couldn't help but shiver. Can he really defy destiny? The Blood Prison Great Saint thought in shock. To him, Guan remained the omnipotent immortal. He turned his head, seeing Guan standing by the lake with his back to the medicine cauldron, his calm demeanor earning even more admiration. For Guan, defying destiny seemed like it wasn't a difficult task. Little did the Blood Prison Great Saint know, Guan wasn't truly defying destiny but merely helping Yang Jian restore his true physique. At this moment, Guan was multitasking, guiding Yang Jian's cultivation while using his divine sense to scan the ocean. He was searching for a suitable place for his next breakthrough. I wonder what realm lies beyond heaven and earth. Flying immortal, Guan thought expectantly. With over 16 million years of lifespan, he felt he should be able to break through. However, he hesitated over whether to enhance his cultivation techniques and divine skills, as elevating them required investing tens of thousands or even more lifespan years. He feared he might not have enough lifespan left to break through afterward. Ah! Yang Jian suddenly let out a shrill scream, making the Blood Prison Great Saint's heart tighten. This seemed more painful than when he had absorbed the true blood of the divine beast. Guan didn't turn back, seemingly unconcerned about Yang Jian. The elixir he had given Yang Jian was extraordinary, worth 100 supreme-grade spirit stones, equivalent to 10,000 top-grade spirit stones. 100 million low-grade spirit stones. It was known that outer sect servant disciples only received 1 low-grade spirit stone per month as stipend. The treatment in Mystic Valley and the Third Medicine Valley was better, but not by much. With this elixir, Yang Jian might even make a direct breakthrough, depending on how much of the medicinal power his physique could absorb. Time passed by second. After a while of screaming, Yang Jian's voice suddenly stopped. The Blood Prison Great Saint widened his eyes in shock. Yang Jian slowly rose from the cauldron, still in a meditative posture. His black hair fluttered, skin glowing red. Strangely, he emitted a menacing aura, frightening the Blood Prison Great Saint. This feeling was like encountering a nemesis. Rumble, a thundercloud had quietly formed in the sky, brewing a mighty force. What kind of life grid is being altered? This is too overwhelming. The Blood Prison Great Saint thought in astonishment. Even with his divine beast blood-enhanced physique, he was intimidated by Yang Jian's presence, indicating how terrifying Yang Jian's physique had become. He turned to look at Guan, who remained unfazed. Seaman. Chapter 234. Only I can decide my disciple's life and death. Rumble. The sound of thunder continued to roar, causing the ocean around the island to rise and fall, with howling winds signaling the approach of a storm. Guan had his back to Yang Jian, his divine sense enveloping the sea area spanning thousands of miles, constantly on guard against any approach by a great cultivator. He wasn't worried about the celestial tribulation Yang Jian was causing, as such tribulations were insignificant over the ocean. Yang Jian's cultivation level was formidable enough that, though terrifying, it was only a threat to cultivators of lower realms. Yang Jian still had his eyes closed, meditating in midair. His robe fluttered wildly as the nature's spiritual energy surged into his mouth and nose. Simultaneously, his pores expelled searing qi, enveloping him and making him appear extremely imposing. His eyebrows were tightly furrowed, enduring unimaginable pain. His entire focus was on his inner being, completely unaware of the outside world, or even that he had floated up into the air. The thunder roared like a heavenly god, oppressively overwhelming. The Blood Prison Great Saint lay prone on the ground, his mindset now adjusted and filled with anticipation. He was eager to see what kind of defying fate Yang Jian would create. Bang! A sudden bolt of lightning struck down, hitting Yang Jian. In an instant, his robe was reduced to ashes and his body turned charred. As the lightning subsided, blood began to seep from his skin, making him look ghastly. Within 3 breaths, he was transformed into a bloodied figure. Guan turned to look at Yang Jian, his gaze remaining calm. The Blood Prison Great Saint also remained composed, sensing that Yang Jian's life was not in immediate danger. One bolt of heavenly lightning after another struck down. Guan sharply noticed that these heavenly lightnings contained 5 elements spiritual energy. Could it be that Yang Jian's physique could directly absorb the 5 elements spiritual energy? No wonder such immense spiritual energy was needed to break through the constraints deep within his bone marrow. Too monstrous, thus unaccepted by the heavenly Tao? Guan's expectations for Yang Jian grew. He wanted to see what kind of transformation Yang Jian would undergo. Yang Jian continued to endure the lightning strikes, his skin and flesh splitting open, blood splattering, yet his aura didn't weaken. Instead, it brewed an even stronger force. After around 30 minutes, Yang Jian's body was devoid of hair, his skin was completely charred, with white bones faintly visible at the joints. The might of the heavenly lightning reached a new height, causing the blood prison great saint to grow tense, fearing that Yang Jian might suddenly die. At this moment, Guan felt an aura rapidly approaching. It was a Nirvana realm cultivator, not too strong. As long as a loose immortal or higher did not appear, Guan wouldn't need to forcibly take Yang Jian away. Soon, a figure flew into the island, traversed the forest and quickly landed by the lake. Without looking at Guan or the blood prison great saint, his gaze fixed on Yang Jian filled with astonishment. Immortal Seeking Taoist, Nirvana Realm 9 Layers, 20489/25000/300000. Immortal Seeking Taoist? This name seemed familiar. Guan suddenly remembered that Wuxia mentioned being taught the Taoist expansion skill by a divine monk who called himself Immortal Seeking Taoist. He didn't expect this person to be a Nirvana realm existence. In other words, during his weaker days, there was a Nirvana realm great cultivator in the Tri-3 halls. If he had recklessly seized lifespans and grown rapidly, he could have very likely perished at the hands of a Nirvana realm great cultivator. This made him feel fortunate for having kept a low profile. Though named a Taoist, Immortal Seeking Taoist looked more like a monk, clad in a dark yellow monk robe and cassock, with a youthful and handsome face. Guan remained silent, but the blood prison great saint wasn't pleased. He grumbled, "Hey smelly monk, who let you in? You come in without a greeting?" Since deciding to be Guan's exclusive mount, his mindset had shifted. The monk could disrespect him, but he must respect his master. Immortal Seeking Taoist glanced at the blood prison great saint, smiled, then looked at Guan, cupping his fists in salute. "This humble Taoist is Immortal Seeking Taoist. May I know the honored name of Taoist friend, and what is your relationship with this person?" Guan calmly replied, "My name is Meng Lang, he is my disciple." Immortal Seeking Taoist noted that Guan's aura only indicated a core formation realm cultivation level, but he didn't believe it, growing even more curious. Being unable to discern the other's true cultivation meant the other was likely far superior to him. He smiled, "Taoist friend Meng, your disciple is extraordinary. His heavenly destiny exceeds the current world's limits. It should have been buried, but you discovered it. This world will change because of him." Guan asked, "Oh? Did I make a mistake?" "Not at all, the affairs of heaven and earth are about change. The old gives way to the new and everything changes daily. There's no right or wrong." Immortal Seeking Taoist smiled, his gaze then returning to Yang Jian filled with wonder. Guan inquired, "Taoist friend, do you know what his physique is?" Immortal Seeking Taoist pondered, "This humble Taoist finds it hard to judge. He has the mysteries of the ancient 5 elements treasure body and the fierce chi and blood of the primeval tyrant body." 5 elements treasure body? Guan had once possessed the 5 elements treasure body but had ascended to an innate Taoist body, transforming further into his current mystic holy body. Are the 5 elements treasure body and primeval tyrant body powerful? The blood prison great saint asked, making Guan quite satisfied with him. Good, he has potential. If Guan asked this himself, it would have lessened his status. Immortal Seeking Taoist smiled at the blood prison great saint, saying, "Naturally in ancient times talent wasn't solely determined by spirit root attribute and qualification. Physique also played a major role. Those with treasure bodies, regardless of spirit root qualification, ultimately became legendary rulers of the immortal path." He began to recount the ancient treasure bodies he knew about. The exquisite treasure body, a physique of great comprehension, impervious to evil influences. The flame primordial treasure body, a body like blazing sun, which could transform into a glorious sun at its peak. The defying blood treasure body, where near-death situations trigger immense potential, possibly leading to permanent power increases. And so on. Immortal Seeking Taoist described 8 types of treasure bodies, astonishing both Guan and the blood prison great saint. From his tales, ancient immortal paths seemed stronger than today's, with various treasure bodies thriving, myriad races standing tall, and even reincarnation existing, allowing the mighty to seek immortal opportunities through rebirth. "Taoist friend, I hope today's events remain between us," Guan said. Immortal Seeking Taoist had shown no hostility and shared much ancient lore, which spoke well of him, though not necessarily proving him absolutely good, but certainly not bad at the moment. Immortal-seeking Taoist nodded. Rest assured, this humble Taoist doesn't wish to see such a promising figure fall either. Bah! Suddenly Yang Jian erupted with a terrifying force, shaking the forest and causing ripples in the nearby lake. The thunderclouds emitted a red glow. A terrifying red lightning bolt struck Yang Jian, making him scream in agony. Mystic dark heavenly tribulation. Immortal-seeking Taoist frowned, stating each word slowly. Mystic dark heavenly tribulation? Guan remembered this name. It was the tribulation he faced when breaking through to the void-crossing realm in his cultivating visions. This tribulation is odd, beyond what his cultivation should attract. It's a certain death tribulation. The blood prison great saint shouted in horror. This tribulation surpassed even his unification realm tribulation in intensity. He sensed the mystic dark heavenly tribulation still brewing, with the true horror yet to come. Immortal-seeking Taoist took a deep breath and said, "Indeed, a certain death tribulation. It seems the heavens will not tolerate him." Guan thought of An Hao, who also had a 9,999-year lifespan, yet faced less intense tribulations. Could it mean that even within the same 9,999-year limit, talent varied? This number marked a human limit, but talent had no bounds. Immortal-seeking Taoist said to Guan, "The mystic dark heavenly tribulation is a tribulation of karma, not to be forcibly dispersed. Intervening would stain you with karma, leading to facing the same or even stronger tribulation yourself during a breakthrough." His face expressed deep regret. What a pity for such a promising seedling. Guan looked at Yang Jian and remained silent. Karma from the heavenly tribulation? Sorry, he didn't undergo tribulations, and he had faced this kind of tribulation in his cultivating visions, enduring it without assistance. He had made it through. Another bolt of lightning fell, this time even more terrifying. Guan's eyes sharpened, and he suddenly waved his sleeve. His long sleeve swept, directly dispersing the thunderclouds, allowing sunlight to shine down on Yang Jian. The tribulation dissolved instantly. Immortal-seeking Taoist's eyes widened in disbelief as he turned his head to look at Guan, who remained indifferent, serene. The blood prison great saint turned as well, wanting to speak but holding back. Immortal-seeking Taoist felt the dissipating aura and his eyes grew complicated. He sighed, "Taoist friend, why did you go to such lengths?" Guan looked at the blood-soaked Yang Jian and said, "Immortal cultivation is about enduring tribulations. So what if it's a different tribulation? Only I determine my disciple's life and death." How domineering. The blood prison great saint felt his blood boil. Following such a person was indeed a blessing. Immortal-seeking Taoist looked at Guan, opened his mouth, but ultimately said nothing. He raised his hand in salute, showing respect. Then they both waited for Yang Jian to awaken. They could feel Yang Jian's qi blood rapidly strengthening. With the tribulation gone, ample spiritual energy rushed towards him, causing a profound transformation in his bones and marrow. After a long time, Immortal-seeking Taoist asked Guan, "May I ask where Taoist friend hails from?" "From the West." "The West? Have you heard of Immortal-seeking Island?" Guan glimpsed at Immortal-seeking Taoist, curiously inquiring. Immortal-seeking Island? Immortal-seeking Taoist? Could there be a connection? Immortal-seeking Taoist smiled. "So, Taoist friend knows Immortal-seeking Island. To be honest, I founded the island long ago, later passing it to my disciple. The fame it enjoys now is all thanks to him, not myself." The island master of Immortal-seeking Island was a wandering immortal, while Immortal-seeking Taoist was merely a nirvana realm cultivator. Indeed, one shouldn't judge solely by cultivation level. Background and connections also counted as strength. Guan reflected on this and then engaged in polite conversation with Immortal-seeking Taoist. It wasn't until early the next morning that Yang Jian's transformation concluded. He leaped into the lake, washed his body and then stepped ashore. Under the sunlight, he had grown a few inches taller, his skin fair and his muscles well-defined, exuding immense strength from merely looking at his upper body. Chapter 235 Post-Holiday Breakthrough. Looking at Yang Jian, who was now a completely different person, Guan smiled. Yang Jian had reached the 5th layer of the Foundation Establishment realm in one go. His qi blood was even stronger than that of the Foundation Establishment realm, proving that Guan's elixirs and medicinal herbs had not been wasted. Of course, Yang Jian's physique surely still held more mysteries that needed to be uncovered through future cultivation. Guan took out a blue robe and tossed it to Yang Jian, who hurriedly put it on. The immortal-seeking Taoist quickly walked up to Yang Jian and carefully looked him over. The more he looked, the happier he became, as if staring at a rare treasure, making Yang Jian feel very uncomfortable. "Young friend, your master is exceedingly good to you. Do you know what kind of tribulation you just went through?" The immortal-seeking Taoist said. Upon hearing this, Yang Jian couldn't help but ask what kind of heavenly tribulation it was. Then, the immortal-seeking Taoist began to explain the mystic dark heavenly tribulation and told him that it was Guan who had dispelled the tribulation, bearing great heavenly tribulation consequences as a result. Upon hearing this, Yang Jian's face changed dramatically. He hurriedly bypassed the immortal-seeking Taoist and ran to Guan, kneeling before him. "Master, your disciple is not worthy of your actions. Your disciple let you down?" Yang Jian's forehead touched the ground, choking with emotion as he spoke. He felt both moved and guilty in his heart. His master had changed his fate, not only by providing precious elixirs and medicinal herbs but also by bearing the consequences of the heavenly tribulation. The depth of this kindness was immense. From childhood to adulthood, although he had not suffered hardships and had a happy family, ever since his spirit root was detected, his world had turned dark. Guan not only brought him hope but also fulfilled that hope. Yang Jian knew well that his master could train other disciples and was not obligated to choose him, which made the weight of this kindness even heavier. Guan looked down at him and said, "Since you have acknowledged me as your master, it is something a master should do. Get up now. I do not seek your repayment in the future, just that you avoid causing trouble and implicating your master." Yang Jian looked up and saw Guan blinking at him. He immediately understood that his master was joking with him, just like Master Puda's advice to Sun Wukong in Journey to the West. "Master, get up now. A real man doesn't cry. What kind of behavior is this?" "All right." Watching Guan and Yang Jian, the immortal-seeking Taoist felt deeply moved. He had a feeling that many years later, today's events would become a story as Yang Jian's name shook the world. He took 2 steps forward and said, "Taoist friend, our meeting is fate. I have a divine skill here that I would like to give to your disciple, would you mind?" Guan said, "Jianer," quickly bowing gratitude to Senior. Upon hearing this, Yang Jian turned around, cupped his fists, and bowed to the immortal-seeking Taoist, thanking him for the divine skill. The immortal-seeking Taoist took out a secret book from his sleeve and handed it to Yang Jian. "Young friend, what is your name? I will keep an eye on your achievements in the future." Yang Jian took the secret book, first looking at Guan, seeing him nod. He then replied, "My name is Yang Jian." Yang Jian. The immortal-seeking Taoist noted the name. He felt like he had seen it somewhere in a book before. Afterward, the immortal-seeking Taoist did not disturb the master and disciple any further and took his leave. Guan began to teach Yang Jian the heaven and earth primordial skill. The all things form and energy art and the heaven and earth primordial skill were Guan's foundation techniques. Even in how only practiced a lower version, showing how much Guan valued Yang Jian. Yang Jian had been in the valley for many years. Though he didn't have an outstanding personality, Guan liked his honesty. This boy had ambitions but did things steadily. He clearly wanted to get close to Guan but never looked for a chance to face Guan directly. Instead, he dutifully served the Blood Prison Great Saint and the White Spirit Rat for years, which even Guan found amusing. In Guan's eyes, Yang Jian was like an unpolished gem, and he looked forward to seeing what kind of person Yang Jian would become under his careful training. Guan did not seek Yang Jian's repayment in the future. Teaching Yang Jian was just an embellishment to his leisurely life. He merely wanted to teach a disciple, nothing more. In the evening at the Third Medicine Valley, Guan rode the Blood Prison Great Saint down from the transmission array platform, with Yang Jian following beside him. "Master, where have you been? I haven't seen you for 4 days." A passing Exian asked curiously. Her eyes turned to Yang Jian, widening as she carefully examined him. "Just went out for a walk," Guan casually replied, then dismounted and walked alone towards the pavilion. An Exian immediately approached Yang Jian, examined him closely and asked, "Are you really Yang Jian? How have you changed so much?" Yang Jian had already mastered the sorcery of the all things form and energy art, letting him conceal his aura, but he couldn't precisely disguise his realm. He said nervously, "Master gave me an elixir to temper my muscles and bones, so my skin has become a bit whiter." "I see, it looks like Master has accepted you as a closed-door disciple." An Exian smiled. She did not harbor any jealousy as her master was far more powerful than Guan. Although the disciples of the Medicine Valley all called Guan master, it was merely a term of respect with no actual relationship. Yang Jian scratched his head and smiled. Though still shy, he now exuded more confidence. The two chatted for a while, and more disciples noticed Yang Jian's changes, gathering around to inquire. In just a few days, Yang Jian seemed to have transformed from a countryside boy into a clean and handsome young gentleman, which was quite a shock for the disciples who knew him. Soon the news about Yang Jian becoming Gu An's closed-door disciple spread, and because of Yang Jian's transformation, Guan became even more mysterious in the eyes of the disciples. In the days to follow, Yang Jian continued to do chores like other servant disciples, but he spent most of his spare time on cultivation, hiding in his room for most of the day. To prevent anyone from disturbing his cultivation, Guan arranged a separate courtyard for him. Yang Jian truly felt the change in status that came with becoming Gu An's disciple, making him even more grateful to Guan. Time flew by. Another new spring festival arrived. The Immortal cultivation world was already dominated by the Heavenly Rankings tournament. The Supreme Sect had set the specific date for the Heavenly Rankings tournament to be in 10 years during the Spring Festival. When Yi Lan and Zhen Qin came to the Third Medicine Valley to visit Guan, Guan introduced Yang Jian to them and pointed out that he was his disciple. Because of this, Yi Lan even gifted Yang Jian a magic artifact. Zhen Qin was very happy, considering herself his senior sister, and told him to come to the inner sect if he ever needed anything. Little did they know, Guan introduced Yang Jian to them to provide them with a backing. Since his physique awakening, Yang Jian had cultivated for half a year, raising his cultivation level from the 5th layer to the 6th layer of the Foundation Establishment realm. This speed was very fast, and it was estimated that he could form his core before the Heavenly Rankings tournament started. One should know that half a year ago he was only a 3rd layer energy cultivation cultivator. Apart from the increase in cultivation level, Yang Jian's understanding of the all things form and energy art was very quick. It seemed he was naturally suited for body refinement. LV Badian also visited the Third Medicine Valley to speak with Guan. Guan similarly introduced Yang Jian to LV Badian. In the room, LV Badian looked over Yang Jian, who was energetic, becoming more astonished as he gazed. This qi blood was extraordinary. Even though Yang Jian hid his cultivation level, his aura made anyone feel that he was not ordinary at first glance. Upon knowing that this person was the sect leader of the Supreme Sect, Yang Jian was very surprised. But compared to before, he treated others more composedly, a confidence that came from his strength. Male or female? Male. Why? Nothing. Don't worry, master, I won't disappoint you either. You'll spar with your disciple sometime in the future. Tian Yaoer said confidently. Guan smiled and agreed to the request. Although Tian Yaoer's maximum lifespan was longer than Yang Jian's as a demon, it was not comparable. In terms of talent, Tian Yaoer could not match Yang Jian. Guan was more eager to see a spar between Anhao and Yang Jian. After the Spring Festival, he planned to find a place to break through and then visit Anhao. Chapter 236 Breakthrough to the 9 Layers of the Carefree Immortal Realm. New Year's just passed and all things in heaven and earth began to revive. Guan walked through the air, admiring the ocean scenery along the way. Although the rumors about the world-destroying sea tide were spreading far and wide, the ocean still looked calm, without the slightest sign of disaster. He spread out his divine sense, searching for a suitable place to break through. He was already very far from the continent, and his limitless freedom step had already crossed 100 steps. With his current cultivation level, he could step across a distance dozens of times that of the continent, showing just how far the sea area was from the continent. The spiritual energy of the beings in the ocean was exceptionally dense, far exceeding that of the continent. Moreover, the cultivation levels of the oceanic demon beasts were very high. He even saw a whale at the loose immortal realm as large as half the continent, capable of swallowing the territory of 3 dynasties in one gulp, exaggeration to the extreme. Upon arriving here, the aura of human cultivators became rare. The occasional aura felt belonged entirely to Immortal Path realm cultivators. Without a cultivation level at the Nirvana realm, one couldn't enter this sea area. Finally, Guan's gaze locked on a grand sea island. The island was teeming with life, even housing a power formed by hundreds of thousands of demons, with most of the demon soldiers training in the plains. The strongest demon had reached the 2nd layer of the loose immortal realm. The 9th layer heaven and earth flying immortal realm. Guan stealthily sneaked into the forest, meditating under a tree and activating the lifespan barrier. He did not immediately attempt to break through but instead spread out his divine sense, observing the situation all around. Within the range of his divine sense, he felt the aura of wandering immortals. Fortunately, there were no heaven and earth flying immortals. Heaven and earth flying immortals were always few in numbers, not visible to mortal spirits. After all, they could leave this world. When Guan expanded the range of his divine sense to its maximum, he still did not see any heaven and earth flying immortals, finally putting his heart at ease. Though he couldn't see any heaven and earth flying immortals at sea, if he looked up at the sky, he could daily see the figures of heaven and earth flying immortals coming and going like meteors streaking across the sky. Guan retracted his divine sense and pulled up the attribute panel. Name, Guan, lifespan, 128/168907764, physique, mystic holy body, cultivation level, heaven and earth flying immortal realm 9th layer, with 10 million years of lifespan invested. Could I break through to a higher realm? The 8th to 9th layer of the heaven and earth flying immortal realm cost 30,000 years of lifespan. To reach a higher realm, failing once would mean waiting for more than 30,000 years before trying again. Failing 100 times would cost at least 3 million years of lifespan, which made him shudder just thinking about it. If he could use 10 million years of lifespan to break through to a higher realm, he would consider himself lucky. So he dared not upgrade his cultivation technique or physique, deciding to brute force his way in the realm instead. Guan took a deep breath and first invested 1 million years of lifespan to test the waters. You cultivated through energy absorption for 50,000 years, using the great accomplishment of heaven and earth primordial skill to forcefully break through to the carefree primordial immortal realm. You began to cross the tribulation, but you did not survive the ultimate reincarnation heavenly tribulation and failed. You cultivated through energy absorption for 100,000 years, using the great accomplishment of heaven and earth primordial skill to forcefully break through to the carefree primordial immortal realm. You began to cross the tribulation, but you did not survive the ultimate reincarnation heavenly tribulation and failed. Crossing the tribulation every 50,000 years? A bit harsh. Guan looked at the constant failure prompts before him, feeling somewhat panicked. 1 million years of lifespan resulted in just 20 failures. It would take 5 million years of lifespan to fail 100 times. The more Guan thought, the more anxious he became. His heart hardened, and he directly invested 5 million years of lifespan into cultivation. Fail. Guan couldn't even be bothered to look closely, just seeing that as long as the prompt didn't grow longer, it meant all failures. After all, 5 million years of lifespan ultimately went down the drain, another 100 failures. This carefree primordial immortal realm was truly difficult to break through. No wonder he had never even heard of it in the real world. There were legends of heaven and earth flying immortals above the sea, but no tales of carefree primordial immortals. Guan pulled up the attribute panel again, and seeing there were still 10 million years of lifespan left, his heart settled a little. Another 5 million years of lifespan. He didn't believe he couldn't break through. Series of prompts crazily popped up, and within the lifespan barrier, spiritual energy never surged, and the leaves above his head swayed with the wind, producing rustling sounds that made Guan feel malice. It was as if the lifespan barrier was mocking him. The second 5 million years of lifespan all ended up in failures. He had already spent 11 million years of lifespan, failing 220 times to cross the tribulation. If he upgraded his cultivation technique and physique first, today would he be unable to break through? But even if he didn't break through, at least his strength would have increased like now. If he ultimately failed, he would have gained nothing. Guan couldn't accept such a failure, so he continued investing, this time putting in 500,000 years of lifespan. Constant failures appeared before him, but finally, a prompt suddenly lengthened, surprising him with joy. It worked. You cultivated through energy absorption for 350,000 years, using the great accomplishment of heaven and earth primordial skill to forcefully break through to the carefree primordial immortal realm. You began to cross the tribulation. You survived the ultimate reincarnation heavenly tribulation successfully, and your cultivation level advanced to the first layer of the carefree primordial immortal realm. You cultivated through energy absorption for 410,000 years, advancing your cultivation level to the second layer of the carefree primordial immortal realm. You cultivated through energy absorption for 470,000 years, advancing your cultivation level to the third layer of the carefree primordial immortal realm. You cultivated through energy absorption for 500,000 years, your cultivation level increased. 60,000 years for a small realm advancement, this carefree primordial immortal was truly fierce. Guan felt sentimental, the lifespan barrier finally began to function, and earth spirit energy surged into his body. He didn't remain idle, continuously investing lifespan into his cultivation. His cultivation small realms could only be at the 9th layer. He wasn't used to presenting himself as an observer below the 8th layer, lacking a sense of security. Eventually, he spent another 490,000 years of lifespan to attain the 9th layer of the carefree primordial immortal realm. The 8th layer to the 9th layer shockingly cost him 150,000 years of lifespan. This breakthrough took nearly 12 million years of lifespan to reach the 9th layer of the carefree primordial immortal realm, an utterly terrifying figure. Boom. The earth rumbled and spiritual energy soared like a tide, covering the grass within the barrier. All spirit energy on the entire island and the surrounding sea area abruptly plummeted, startling all beings into panic and chaos. The influence of the lifespan barrier continued to expand. The spiritual energy required from the 9th layer heaven and earth flying immortal realm to the 9th layer of the carefree primordial immortal realm was immense. After a few breaths, ocean demons erupted from beneath the sea. Heaven and earth were in an uproar. The island fell into a clamor as the demons roared, deafeningly. Guan saw shape-shifting demons flying over the forest, thinking an enemy was attacking the island. Guan closed his eyes and began to feel the changes within himself. He wanted to see what the carefree primordial immortal had that made it so hard to break through. After 30 minutes, a flood of profound insights exploded in Guan's mind like the universe's Big Bang, infinite information pouring into his consciousness. Heaven and earth rules. Heaven and earth flying immortal required cultivating the path of 5 elements to perceive higher realms. With the 5 elements' perfection, one could perceive the heaven and earth rules. All things in the world were composed of the unseen and untouchable power of rules. The 5 elements were the foundation as stated in the Tao Te Ching, that Tao produced 1, 1 produced 2, 2 produced 3 and 3 produced all things. The carefree primordial immortal was the realm of perceiving the rules of heaven and earth. Reaching this realm meant being completely unbounded by the constraints of heaven and earth, completely carefree. The primordial spirit underwent a baptism by the rules of heaven and earth, reaching transcendence. His golden core and mystic heart were transforming into higher existences. The golden core was accumulating the power of heaven and earth rules to form his Tao. What was Tao? Tao encompassed everything: cultivation techniques, spells, divine skills, etc. Everything about his existence was his Tao. The golden core generated the Tao, transforming into the primordial elixir. No wonder the nascent soul and golden core independently existed. The nascent soul transformed into the primordial spirit, and the golden core transformed into the Tao. Guan guessed they would merge at some future realm, making him the incarnation of the Tao. Time flew by quickly. As Earth's spiritual energy sank faster, the clouds above churned violently as if ready to collapse with the spiritual energy. The island's demons were terrified, assembling in formations and hiding within the island, not daring to come out. Fortunately, no demon intruded into the lifespan barrier. After an hour, Guan successfully transformed into a carefree primordial immortal. Breaking free from heaven and earth rules, truly carefree. Wherever the Tao existed, the mind could reach. What was the existence of Tao? Places and beings inheriting Guan's Taoist sorcery were where the Tao existed, enabling him to easily escape and control their causes and effects. Guan realized the way of cause and effect was a unique Taoist sorcery. As his realm increased, his mastery over cause and effect grew deeper. The so-called cause and effect were the invisible forces produced by the interaction of all beings. There were cause and effect, and gathering endless cause and effect together was the world. After a major realm breakthrough, Guan's cultivation level began to surge. The primordial elixir had already deduced his Tao, and all the cause and effect related to him would appear in his Tao. He was moving towards the realm of omniscience. First, understand all his cause and effect. At higher realms, who knows if he could comprehend all cause and effect. After 3 hours, night fell, and Guan finally reached the 9th layer of the carefree primordial immortal realm. His divine sense range was expanding continuously, perceiving the lifespan barrier's extraction range of earth spirit energy significantly exceeded his 9th layer heaven and earth flying immortal realm range. Due to this immense scope, no one, not even a demon, could detect the focal point of spiritual energy's descent. When the earth's spiritual energy ceased flowing into Guan, he slowly stood up and opened his eyes. He instantly transformed into an aurora and vanished from the spot. Then he arrived in front of a mansion. As it was late at night, the streets were empty, but the mansion within was brightly lit. He looked up and the signboard bore 2 words. G Mansion. Through the Tao of his primordial elixir, He arrived at the Ji mansion where his cause and effect resided. Yes, it was arriving, not teleporting. Arriving wouldn't produce any signs between the two places, breaking free from the rules of heaven and earth, arriving at another place from a higher dimension. He was essentially traveling within his Tao. This feeling was truly marvelous. Guan walked towards the Ji mansion, the place of his birth and childhood. Taking a step past the main gate, he walked within the courtyard. An old servant carrying a lantern walked towards him, passing through his body. This, too, was the mystical nature of the carefree primordial immortal. Mortal spirits couldn't see, mortal spirits couldn't touch. No wonder there were no legends of the carefree primordial immortal. For the first time, Guan felt invincible. Chapter 237. Soul of the Ji family ancestor. Late at night, the Ji mansion was dimly lit. Guan walked leisurely through the corridors and childhood memories kept surfacing. As the starting point of Guan's life, he had deep feelings for the Ji mansion. From childhood to adulthood, he lived quite well in the Ji mansion. Apart from the incident when he smashed the flower bed and was nearly punished by having his hand cut off, he had a good life without being bullied by other Ji family members. Although there were occasional conflicts among the house servants, it never escalated to a point of deadly enmity. Having not returned for 100 years, the Ji mansion felt both familiar and unfamiliar to him. What was familiar were the furnishings and environment, which had not changed much. What was unfamiliar were the people. There were many branches of the Ji family, and the Ji mansion he was in was just one among many, with branches spread across 3 generations. Before the demon catastrophe, the Ji family had hidden in the 7-star spirit realm. Only the main family and the high-ranking and talented disciples went into hiding. After the catastrophe, those who had hidden in the 7-star spirit realm returned to their respective homelands to continue developing the family. Guan even saw branches of the Ji family on the ocean, though they stayed close to the mainland, not daring to venture far because the demons in the ocean were powerful, and high-level demons could be encountered frequently. The person with the highest cultivation level in this Ji mansion was in the unification realm. Back then, those in the unification realm were beings he had to look up to. Suddenly, Guan detected a faint soul aura piquing his interest. He immediately walked toward that direction. Along the way, figures passed by him. He even walked through the courtyard walls as if everything there was illusory to him. Guan saw a familiar face, the court guardian who almost cut off his hand back then. 100 years had passed. The guardian now had gray hair and looked aged. He no longer appeared fierce but rather kind and gentle. Guan merely glanced at him, having no thought of seeking revenge. Indeed, it was his fault for smashing the flower bed back then. The guardian was just doing his duty and now their realms were worlds apart. Why should he hold a grudge? The Ji mansion was large and Guan walked leisurely as if on a casual stroll. An hour later, he arrived at the place where the mysterious soul resided, which turned out to be the ancestral hall of the Ji mansion. He passed through the door and saw rows of spirit tablets, all of Ji family's ancestors, and the soul was hidden within the main spirit tablet. Guan approached the spirit tablet, noting the name on it. Jianghu. A soul was hidden deep inside the spirit tablet, an old man lying on his side, seemingly napping. He was hidden in the power of cause and effect, not in an ordinary exotic space, where beings couldn't detect his presence with divine sense. Jianghu turned over as if dreaming, unaware that someone was spying on him. Guan cast lifespan detection on him, but the data came back as 0, not even displaying his realm. In the unseen, Jianghu had countless connections with the entire Ji mansion, threads of cause and effect among them, one involving Ji Xiaoyu. Jianghu was an ancestral bloodline of Ji Xiaoyu. Following Ji Xiaoyu's line of cause and effect, Guan saw a segment that was very blurry even to his eyes. Ji Xiaoyu's cause and effect seemed off, giving Guan an eerie feeling as if Ji Xiaoyu had suddenly become someone else at a certain stage. Looking closely, the change seemed to occur when Ji Xiaoyu was 10 years old. He did not dwell on it, for he wasn't here to investigate Ji Xiaoyu. Ji Xiaoyu possessed the primordial Taoist talisman, so having special causes and effects was not surprising. Guan did not stay long and quickly turned away from the ancestral hall. Deep within the spirit tablet, Jianghu suddenly turned over and sat up. He scratched his head, muttering, "Strange, just now I felt a sense of unease. Could it be that the Ji family is facing another calamity? Blame it on that 7-star spirit realm. Sigh, the current generation truly lacks ambition, always relying on others. I can only watch and hope that she can restore the Ji family to its former glory." Jianghu lay down again and continued to sleep. For him, time had no meaning. He was accustomed to indulging in dreams, enjoying the reincarnations he created for himself. At dawn, the sunlight swept from the horizon. Qi Bei stood on the beach, frowning as he gazed into the distance. His face was pale. During the battle in Divine Exotic City, he had been stung by the immortal swallowing scorpion from the seven-star spirit realm, and the scorpion venom had not been fully purged from his body. A figure emerged from the forest behind him. It was Qi Jiuxiao, the genius from the Star Sea congregations. Master, and how that kid was really outrageous. I passed on my divine skills to him and he mastered them last night. It's simply unnatural. Qi Jiuxiao cursed as he approached, resentful of Enhao's extraordinary talent. He had indeed been defeated, acknowledging that Enhao's talent and comprehension surpassed his own. Qi Bei did not respond, still staring into the distance. Master, what are you looking at? Qi Jiuxiao couldn't help but ask when he saw his master lost in thought. Qi Bei snapped back to reality and said, "The spiritual energy over the sea seems unusual. I suspect there is an anomaly somewhere, possibly related to the recently rumored world-destroying sea tide." Qi Jiuxiao frowned and said, "What world-destroying sea tide? It must be the seven-star spirit realm causing trouble." That huge rift appeared too coincidentally. Qi Bei did not reply, thinking those comments were pointless. At that moment, a seven-colored radiance descended from the sky, landing beside them, instantly drawing their attention. They turned to see a figure within the radiance. It was a mysterious figure enveloped in dark purple demonic qi. Qi Jiuxiao's eyes widened. Sword Venerable Fudao? Qi Bei could not forget the scene where Guan easily killed two wandering immortals, and he quickly bowed. No matter what, the other had saved his life, so he should pay his respects. "Thank you for looking after my disciple all these years," Guan said. Qi Bei was about to speak when Guan suddenly appeared in front of him, reaching out with his right hand. Two fingers pointed at Qi Bai's chest, rendering him immobile instantly. "Master." Qi Jiuxiao was startled, instinctively wanting to rush forward. "Stay put." Qi Bei shouted, even using his mana to restrain Qi Jiuxiao. "The senior is detoxifying me." Qi Bei took a deep breath and said slowly, his eyes filled with complex emotions. As Guan's mana entered his body, he suddenly felt insignificantly small. In the face of this power, the wandering immortal realm was so weak, vulnerable. How powerful were the heaven and earth flying immortals? Although Qi Bei was a wandering immortal, he lacked the confidence to reach the heaven and earth flying immortal realm in the future. It seemed only one great realm apart, but he couldn't imagine how to break through to the heaven and earth flying immortal realm. Qi Jiuxiao was overjoyed at his master's words. He had been constantly worried about his master's poisoning, feeling helpless and anxious. He never expected Enhao's master could purge the immortal swallowing scorpion's poison. After a few breaths, Guan withdrew his hand and said, "I'd like to spend some time alone with my disciple." Then he turned and walked into the forest. Qi Jiuxiao quickly bowed, not daring to obstruct him. Qi Bei felt the poison in his body dissipating and with it, the weight on his heart. He looked at Guan with awe. Such a terrifying poison, yet he could easily expel it. Little did he know, Guan could have eradicated the poison instantly but deliberately prolonged the process. Even so, it was beyond Qi Bai's reach. Qi Jiuxiao quickly came to Qi Bai's side, concerned about his condition. Deep within the island, hundreds of miles away in the mountains, Enhao sat cross-legged on a mountainside, cultivating. Divinity Transformation Realm, 4th layer. Still stunning. Guan stood behind Enhao, reflecting on his current cultivation level. Enhao was now only 94 years old, and a 94-year-old cultivator in the Divinity Transformation Realm, 4th layer, would surpass Li Xiandao in no time. Enhao was still the fastest cultivator Guan had ever known. At 128 years old, having reached the 9th layer of the carefree immortal realm, Guan said, "Based on your cultivation level, you haven't been slacking." Enhao abruptly opened his eyes, turned around, showing a look of surprise and joy. He quickly stood up, excitedly asking, "Master, what brings you here?" Guan replied, "I came to check on you." Hearing this, Enhao became even happier, rushing to Guan, asking various questions, losing his usual composure. In front of Guan he still seemed like that lively, mischievous boy. The master and disciple talked for a long time before Guan got to the point. "How is your practice of the Yangwood primordial skill progressing?" Enhao's spirit root qualification was strong, not because of a single root attribute but because each of his spirit roots was of heavenly spirit root level. In other words, Enhao could cultivate the 5-element skill. Practicing the heaven and earth primordial skill was not considered abandoning his current practice because the two cultivation techniques were from the same origin. Very well, I have already cultivated the yang wood. This spiritual wood can absorb spiritual power, and it's quite domineering. And how eagerly described his accomplishments, not wanting to disappoint his master. After he finished, Guan said, I will teach you a higher-level cultivation technique. The yang wood primordial skill is just one foundation of this technique. Upon hearing this, Hao's eyes lit up and he quickly nodded. This technique cannot be disclosed as it may attract calamities. Also, your tribulation crossing will be more difficult than cultivators of the same realm, so be mentally prepared. Guan reminded him. And Hao suddenly realized, heavenly tribulation is related to the cultivation technique? No wonder my tribulations always astonish others. Guan continued, saying, Recently I have taken on another disciple. Your junior apprentice's qualification is also outstanding, not inferior to yours. As the senior apprentice you must set an example and not be surpassed by him. A junior apprentice? And Hao frowned, feeling a sudden tension. If someone else had said this he would have dismissed it, believing no one could match his qualifications. But hearing it from his master he didn't doubt it. There was someone with qualifications comparable to his, possibly younger, giving him a sense of urgency. Master, what is my junior apprentice's name? And Hao cautiously asked. One day you will meet and get to know each other because you are cultivating the same technique. Guan answered. Could it be Liya? And Hao thought of the Taitsong divine shocking sword that Liya had used. Soon he dismissed this guess. Liya was older than him and wasn't considered a genius, at least in his eyes, quite ordinary. Chapter 238. 7 Days in Outer Heaven. Vast expanse of heaven and earth. After passing down the heaven and earth primordial skill to Hao, Guan didn't linger longer and quickly left the island. In the sky he saw the distant ocean stirring up massive waves, originating from the place of his breakthrough. The spiritual energy he consumed during his breakthrough was enormous, causing the spiritual energy of heaven and earth to sink, inevitably shaking the ocean. Fortunately, that sea region did not have any human-occupied mainland. The demon creatures surviving there all had cultivation levels, so even if the island was flooded, they wouldn't die. Besides, the waves just swept across rather than raising the sea level. Guan just glanced at it and did not give it much thought, avoiding any burden on himself. He harbored good intentions and avoided harming innocent beings as much as possible. Still, if his cultivation inadvertently affected innocent lives, he couldn't help it and he would not stop his progress. Upon returning to the Supreme Sect, Guan first wandered around the Mystic Valley. Lu Jiujia and the servant disciples were already accustomed to days without Guan. Although Guan often visited the Mystic Valley, everyone knew that his focus was on the inner sect's Medicine Valley, which they understood. Without Guan they felt no pressure. Half an hour later, Guan arrived at the Third Medicine Valley. Compared to the Mystic Valley, the Third Medicine Valley was much livelier. Guan stepped down from the transmission array platform, looked around, and saw the past of every servant disciple before his eyes. A mortal spirit's century-long life was just a fleeting moment for him. Guan looked at an X-In, peering into her past, and sure enough, he saw his own figure. He could see the past of mortal spirits and so could other carefree primordial immortals. This made him more grateful for his choice. Luckily he stayed in the Supreme Sect. If he had roamed the world, the increasing causality would have attracted the attention of hidden carefree primordial immortals. If such transcendental beings found his growth speed unreasonable, it would have been troublesome. Guan walked to the wooden fence in the garden area, looked up, and found his vision far beyond before, feeling more and more that the great heavenly spirit land was vast. The name Great Heaven and Earth was indeed well deserved. This continent was already vastly broader than Earth in his past life, yet it was like dust in the entire great heaven and earth. As his field of vision expanded, he saw more heaven and earth flying immortals coming and going. He could even see the scenes beyond heaven, a splendid star sea with breathtaking spectacles, with starry lights resembling celestial rivers, filled with countless stars like great waves sifting through sand, and gigantic nebulas like cosmic trees guiding all beings. Guan's gaze was drawn to the sun illuminating heaven and earth. Outside the great heaven and earth, there were not just one but 7 enormous suns, orbiting around the great heaven and earth under some mysterious rule, allowing every place within it to maintain a regular pattern of 4 seasons and day-night cycles. With his eyesight he saw that each of the 7 suns contained a mysterious being. They were colossal with various forms, Some were birds, others beasts, and even human-like figures, instilling awe. The sun's surface had a power barrier that prevented Guwen from seeing their true forms, which also made lifespan detection impossible. Guwen merely glanced before looking away, avoiding disturbing the beings within the suns. Carefree primordial immortals could easily cross the sky to the outer universe, but he didn't want to go for now. Staying at the Supreme Sect was good enough. He had no urgent enemies, so exploring was unnecessary. He could now roam the world freely. With the mystique of a carefree primordial immortal, if he wished, no life below a carefree primordial immortal would see or touch him. Guwen looked towards the distant heaven and earth, his vision extending rapidly for countless miles. A vast expanse of ocean swept past his eyes. He saw more prosperous continents and scenes of life fighting, including wars, battles between immortal great cultivators, and giant spirit beasts revered as divine beasts roaming the world, with countless mortals kneeling in worship. There were also many places his vision could not penetrate, indicating that they might be home to carefree primordial immortals. Such places were either far from the mortal world or within extremely prosperous human or demon lands. Guwen even saw a continent full of immortal beings, with the lowest cultivation being the Nirvana realm, which amazed him. Fortunately, that continent was incredibly distant. Even Nirvana realm cultivators would find it difficult to cross because the journey was fraught with dangers. He had just seen a loose immortal swallowed by a mysterious giant sea demon, an event that happened so suddenly. The loose immortal was just passing by at an immense speed beyond mortal sight, yet was still devoured, perishing instantly. Guwen felt as if he was exploring. This kind of peering brought him novelty. The whole world seemed to reveal its true face before him, making him unable to stop. He did not know how much time had passed. Yu Yingying came beside him and asked, "What are you thinking about? Why have you been staring blankly for so long?" Guwen withdrew his gaze, looked at her, and smiled gently. "I am thinking about how vast the Star Sea congregations are, and how broad the world outside is." Yu Yingying laughed and replied, "If you want to go to the ocean, I can arrange it for you. As for how large the Star Sea congregations are, even I, who was born there, am unsure. The sea area occupied by the Star Sea congregations is thousands of times larger than this continent, and that's just my estimation." Guwen nodded slightly. The territory of the Star Sea congregations indeed exceeded the continent's size by thousands of times, but it did not seem vast to him because he could see even further. He wondered if there were carefree primordial immortals in the Star Sea congregations. Guwen thought that even if there were, they would not be in the mortal world. Though Guwen could see the other side of the mortal world, he did not find the existence of carefree primordial immortals. It was just hard to see them, but he could not be sure they did not exist. Perhaps carefree primordial immortals could not spy on each other. Therefore this realm was called carefree. Speaking of which, the internal assessment of the Star Sea congregations is about to start. I wonder if Xian Tianyi will make a name for himself this time, Yu Yingying said, her face full of reminiscence. When Guwen heard this, he couldn't help but ask, "Is there a threshold for the internal assessment?" Liya Zhangbuku and Hao had already joined the Star Sea congregations. Guwen looked forward to seeing them make a name for themselves. All three had received his inheritance. If they could thrive in the Star Sea congregations, he would naturally be pleased. No, anyone under 1,000 years old can participate. By the way, Liya from the Supreme Sect is expected to take part. That divine exotic city is a fake immortal treasure, so many prodigies will want to compete with him. Yu Yingying smiled wickedly, with an expression of anticipating someone to be embarrassed. The two of them continued chatting, the topic revolving around the Star Sea congregations. Although Yu Yingying did not want to return, she spoke with pride about the Star Sea congregations, often belittling the Supreme Sect. This made Guwen look forward to the future of the Supreme Sect. The future was long and there was no rush. Who could tell if the Supreme Sect would be more powerful or the Star Sea congregations more prominent in 10,000 years? Although Guwen had already reached the 9th layer of the carefree primordial immortal stage, his life had just started at 128 years old. Not to mention the future, he was very much looking forward to tomorrow. After chatting with Yu Yingying for a while, Guwen moved to another place to continue observing the great heavenly spirit land. In the extremely distant west, he saw a majestic mountain located in a desert, surrounded by sky-covering sandstorms, with a golden radiant giant palace atop the peak, constantly receiving and sending off monks. That palace was also a place his vision could not penetrate. This indicated that the palace likely had a carefree primordial immortal. The world was indeed vast and populated with numerous great powers. Not every heaven and earth flying immortal or higher existence would leave the mortal world. In the days that followed, whenever Guan had time, he observed the heaven and earth. What made him most wary was the north. There lay a vast continent, the largest he had ever seen. He could only see its outline from the edges, and as soon as he got closer, a mysterious force barred his sight. It was a very mysterious power present in all things. It must be Qi Fortune. The Supreme Sect also gathered similar power, but compared to that continent, its Qi Fortune was like a grain of rice compared to the bright sun. He speculated that the continent was the strongest area in the great heavenly spirit land, but he could only observe with just his eyesight. That continent was also incredibly far from the land of the three dynasties. Crossing mountains and seas to reach it was harder than the journey to the west. Spring of the first year of being a carefree primordial immortal passed. Despite reaching a new realm, Guan continued living as before, traversing various medicine valleys, sometimes visiting the outer gate city to read, and occasionally drinking and chatting with friends. Life was very leisurely. In the mountains and forests, Yang Jian, dressed in blue, continuously attacked Guan. His movements were agile and his punches and kicks were fierce, while Guan stood still, dismantling each move in an unhurried manner. The faster Yang Jian was, the slower Guan seemed. Yang Jian was kicked by Guan again, crashing into a tree and shaking down many leaves. This time Yang Jian didn't have the strength to get up, his qi exhausted, but he didn't feel frustrated. Instead, he looked at his master expectantly. He couldn't match his master's prowess, but he wanted to hear his master's evaluation of him. The path of physical cultivation is not so narrow. Not just fists and feet can become magic artifacts. Every part of the body can, Guan said, feeling gratified. This boy's growth speed was amazing, even surpassing in how back then. Perhaps the elixir's efficacy still lingered, making Guan feel astonished. Set a goal. Reach the nirvana realm within 500 years. Before that, Yang Jian couldn't go down the mountain to train. At most, he could return to visit family. Yang Jian didn't know that his master had set a cultivation goal in his heart. He stood up and said, "Master, should I mainly practice the all things form and energy art, the heaven and earth primordial skill, or the Taoist gang primal energy you taught me?" They all seem profound and hard to master. Guan replied, "Take it slow, there's no need to rush to break through the cultivation realm. You can start by laying a solid foundation." Yang Jian felt it made sense. Following Guan in cultivation meant he had all the elixirs he needed and no usual expenses, so he didn't need to hurry. "Master, when would you be willing to participate in the celestial ranking tournament?" Yang Jian suddenly asked, his tone full of anticipation. Chapter 239. This time I win. Since being given a life-altering destiny by his master, Yang Jian believed that his master was the most powerful cultivator in the world. No one, be it the sword venerable Fudao, Taoist lord, or the super-powerful forces like the Seven Stars Spirit Realm and Star Sea congregations, could match his master. He wanted to see his master renowned across the world, for as his disciple, it would be a moment of pride. Guan looked at him with a stern expression and said, "Are you cultivating to seek fame or to pursue immortality? If it is fame you seek, then go to the mundane world where you can become an ultimate martial expert." Yang Jian thought his master was angry and quickly replied, "Of course it is to pursue immortality. Master, I was wrong. I was just curious after hearing other disciples talking about the ranking competition." Guan did not let him off so easily, using this opportunity to temper his character. In a heartfelt tone he said, "Not to mention your current physique is against the laws of nature. If others learn about it, it may bring disaster upon you. There are many who are aware of their heavenly destiny. I am strong, but there are always others out there stronger than the likes of loose immortals. A cultivator should cherish what they already have rather than recklessly seize opportunities. Do not flaunt, do not underestimate the common people of the world." Yang Jian felt ashamed, filled with guilt. Recently, he indeed had developed a sense of pride, seeing other disciples in the valley struggling with basic qi cultivation, while he was already at the foundation establishment level, feeling superior. "Though I do not seek repayment from you, I do not want you to become someone who acts recklessly. Since you are cultivating immortality, you ought to understand that there is a heavenly destiny beyond human efforts. If you stray down the wrong path, you will eventually be punished by the heavens. I do not wish for you to become someone who seeks vain glory. Do you understand?" Guan continued, bringing tears to Yang Jian's eyes. Yang Jian was not moved by grand principles. It was hearing his master say once more that repayment was not required that touched him, making him feel unworthy. He knew exactly what he was thinking. Even though he was reborn anew, his heart still harbored selfish desires and a darker side, making him feel ashamed of himself. Look at his master, clearly an immortal, yet never bullying the weak, humbly staying within the supreme sect, living among mortals without arrogance. He should learn from his master and become a true cultivator. Master, Yang Jian began but was interrupted before he could finish. Let's go back. Guan turned and left with Yang Jian quickly following. At the end of summer, Guan rode the blood prison Great Saint back from Tianya Valley. Along the way, the blood prison Great Saint kept cursing 3 monkey demons and even begged Guan to release some of his cultivation, at least to the core formation realm. No rush, it's good for tempering your character. You are too impetuous, your words can hurt. Without proper tempering, you will bring calamity upon yourself sooner or later, Guan said nonchalantly, holding a peculiar book in his hand that Luo Hun had obtained from Li Xiandao. According to Luo Hun, this book was comparable to the Green Hero Travelogue. Indeed, the Three Dynasty land had many literary talents, and there were always those who could write better than Shen Tianyi. This book was not a travelogue, but a collection of tales about the romance and scandals in the imperial city. The blood prison Great Saint lost his spirit upon hearing Guan's words. He knew his faults, but once he got into an argument with someone, he couldn't quench his anger without giving them a good beating. Zhou Yu has developed hostility towards you and harbors killing intent. Would you like to perform lifespan detection on him? Zhou Yu? The former venerable pavilion of the Supreme Sect? Guan frowned, wondering why this guy had suddenly developed a killing intent towards him. Could it be related to Wu Ju? The Zhou family had already left the Supreme Sect, causing quite a stir. At least the disciples of the Supreme Sect regarded the Zhou family as traitors, especially given their choice of the Zhangtian sect. To this day, Zhangtian sect was the Supreme Sect's biggest rival. The disciples believed that to become the premier sect in the immortal cultivation world, they must surpass the Zhangtian sect. Guan spread his divine sense across the entire continent, searching for Wu Ju's presence and quickly found him. Wu Ju was at the border forests of the Taizong dynasty, in a dilapidated temple. Besides him, there were several other cultivators present, standing off against him. At this moment, Wu Ju frowned deeply, his hands clenched into fists inside his sleeves. Zhou Yu, dressed in a black robe, stood in front of him, exuding authority. The other Zhou family cultivators looked at Wu Ju with disapproval. Wu Ju, our Zhou family has invested a lot of resources in you. Without the Zhou family you wouldn't be who you are today. Are you really going to forget our kindness? A female cultivator said sternly. Others chimed in, with most of them hinting at threats in their tone. Wu Ju gritted his teeth and said, "The Supreme Sect has also been kind to me. Wouldn't joining the Zhou family be a betrayal of that?" Zhou Yu slowly spoke, "Juer, although the world is peaceful now, more and more ocean cultivators are arriving. The immortal cultivation world will face a catastrophe sooner or later. As far as I know, even the sect leader and supreme elder do not know the true identity of Sword Venerable Fudao. If there ever comes a day when Sword Venerable Fudao leaves, the supreme sect would be quickly annihilated." Wu Ju firmly responded, "Impossible. Why would the supreme sect alone face destruction? Is the Zhangtian sect absolutely safe? Besides Sword Venerable Fudao, there are other great cultivators in the supreme sect. I believe the supreme sect is stronger than the Zhangtian sect." In saying this, he was severing ties with Zhou Yu, who now served the Zhangtian sect. Zhou Yu's expression turned ugly and he said, "Think carefully, betrayal of the Zhou family will make you our enemy. Out of respect for our master-disciple relationship, I can let you go today, but in the future, I will kill you to uphold the Zhou family's reputation. Not only you but anyone associated with you will die, such as your only brother in the supreme sect, Guan. Besides Guan, all your friends in the main city of the sect will also die." Zhou Yu truly did not want to let Wu Ju go, as Wu Ju's perception was too formidable. He believed Wu Ju could rival in Hao. The Zhangtian sect had no talent comparable to in Hao. Moreover, Wu Ju had no background and was alone. In the future he could marry into the Zhou family, continuing the lineage of exceptional talent. Upon hearing this, Wu Ju's expression turned grim. He tried to keep calm, took a deep breath and asked, "Since when did you start investigating me?" When Zhou Yu mentioned Guan, Wu Ju panicked. So, the Zhou family still had spies within the supreme sect. Zhou Yu said calmly, "From the day you became my disciple, I understood all your relationships. It's not too late to turn back now. You can even bring those you care about into the Tsangtian sect in the future. This time he didn't mention Guan. Because he couldn't draw in Guan, knowing Guan was actually Panin and close to LV Badian. The thought that Guan could influence Wuju meant that LV Badian might be able to win over Wuju, inflaming his killing intent. Why should LV Badian have both An Hao and Wuju, these two peerless talents? Wuju fell into a struggle. If the Zhou family came only for him, he wouldn't be afraid. But since it involved Guan, he had to hesitate. His talent and perception were top-notch, and he believed he could become a world-shaking force. But he was still young and needed time to grow. The Zhou family, in his eyes, was a colossal existence, one he couldn't challenge alone. The Zhou family still had spies within the Supreme Sect. He couldn't keep an eye on Guan all the time. What if one day a Zhou family spy attacked Guan? He couldn't bear to imagine such a scenario. Damn it! Wuju clenched his fist, staring at Zhou Yu with eyes ablaze. Zhou Yu sighed and said, "Disciple actually boom." A sudden thunderbolt struck down with a speed that left Wuju and the others no time to react, hitting Zhou Yu and sending everyone flying from the blast. Wuju hit the wall but quickly stabilized himself, looking over, and his eyes widened. Zhou Yu had vanished. The spot where he stood was charred black and smoking. The other Zhou family cultivators were wide-eyed, their expressions stunned. "Master?" A disciple called out quickly but received no response. "Not good, there's a Supreme Sect great cultivator nearby." A female disciple shouted and disappeared, followed by the other cultivators, forgetting all about Wuju. Wuju stood in a daze, hesitated for a moment and then chose to leave. On the way out, he couldn't help but wonder if Zhou Yu was dead or alive. Who could have struck that thunderbolt? It couldn't have been a coincidence that Zhou Yu was struck by natural lightning, right? Elsewhere, Guan, still riding on the blood prison great saint's back, felt bored with the mere 92 years of lifespan gained from killing Zhou Yu. I hope the Zhou family knows their place and stops developing hostility towards me. Otherwise, don't blame me for being ruthless, Guan thought silently. While he continued to choose a low-profile approach to cultivation, he was not someone the Zhou family could provoke. Fortunately, in the days that followed, no one from the Zhou family developed hostility towards Guan. No one believed that a newly formed core formation cultivator like Guan could have killed Zhou Yu, a cultivator of the 9th layer of the Unification Realm, out of thin air. The one who killed Zhou Yu must have been at the Mystic Heart Realm or even the Mahayana Realm, which was an obvious warning from the Supreme Sect to the Zhou family. In a bright grand hall, thousands of cultivators gathered. The vast palace was expansive, with a hallway over 100 feet wide and rows of transmission array platforms on either side, with cultivators constantly teleporting in. And Hao stood in place, curiously looking around at everyone. "I heard that this entrance exam involves Li Ya from Divine Exotic City." Divine Exotic City? Could it be that Immortal Path Supreme Treasure? Yes, that Li Ya is indeed lucky. Who knows how powerful he is with the Immortal Path Supreme Treasure? I hope he can't use the Immortal Path Supreme Treasure. How could we compete against that? Without using the Immortal Path Supreme Treasure, he's just a minor cultivator from the barbarian continent, nothing noteworthy. And Hao listened to the disciples' discussions around him, filled with mixed emotions. The influence of the Immortal Path Supreme Treasure was enormous, and Li Ya's name had reached the Star Sea congregations, making the new disciples who were about to enter the sect hostile towards him. Just as he was thinking, a voice called out, "And Hao, long time no see. This time it's my turn to win." And Hao turned his head to see two men walking towards him, one of whom exuded demon energy. Was Li Ya and Jianghu. Li Ya appeared confident, eyes fixed on An Hao, while Jianghu looked full of curiosity. Chapter 240, Sworn to Protect. Looking at Li Ya, who was full of fighting spirit, and Hao remained unmoved. If it had been before, he might have expected to spar with Li Ya, but now his mind was occupied only with that junior brother he had never met. Li Ya possessed the Immortal Path Supreme Treasure and was no longer the same as before. And Hao naturally did not consider himself a match for Li Ya. However, excluding the Immortal Path Supreme Treasure, and Hao truly did not think Li Ya was qualified to be his opponent. Li Ya thought he was timid, so he said, "Don't worry. When I spar with you, I won't use that treasure. But if it's against others, I won't hold back at all, and it'll show off our Supreme Sect's might." Jianghu stood beside them and snorted, "I don't mind if you use that Supreme Treasure. In fact, I want to test its sharpness." And Hao looked at Jianghu. He had met Jianghu before, at a time when Jianghu and Liya were already inseparable, though they had not yet become acquainted. He found Jianghu very interesting and could feel the immense strength of his chi blood. In terms of real strength he was certainly stronger than Liya. "What's your name?" "And how?" asked Jianghu, staring at him. Jianghu replied, "My name is Jianghu. I'm Liya's brother." Liya's mouth twitched, but he did not refute. And Hao nodded and then said nothing more, turning around. Liya became interested, stepped forward and said, "The three of us come from the Supreme Sect and have joined the Star Sea congregations at the same time. Regardless of victories or defeats in the future, how about mutual support?" And Hao nodded without objection. In his heart, the Supreme Sect held a high position. Helping fellow disciples was only natural to him. Liya and Jianghu stepped forward and stayed beside Hao, starting to chat and share their past experiences. And Hao initially didn't care, but as he listened he became captivated by their experiences. Were these two so eager for battle? Very soon Jianghu and Liya started arguing, each blaming the other. And Hao suddenly felt a bit envious of them, as they could rely on each other no matter where they went. Thinking of his junior sister and ex-in, and Hao couldn't help but sigh. Even he felt that the heavens were unfair. While Liya and the others wandered in the Star Sea congregations, far away at the Supreme Sect, Guan and his disciples lived their lives as usual for 10 years. 10 years passed in a flash. Guan's age reached 139. That summer, the Heaven Ranking Tournament, hosted by the Supreme Sect, was about to begin, plunging the Supreme Sect into an unprecedented state of prosperity. In the Third Medicine Valley within a pavilion, Guan looked at his attribute panel. His lifespan had recovered to 8 million years and he was secretly satisfied. When he broke through to the carefree primordial immortal, the lifespan barrier alone cost him nearly 1 million years of life. In 10 years he had gained more than 4 million years of life, which was quite stable. Next, Guan planned to aim for 100 million years of life, at which point he would comprehensively enhance his attribute panel before breaking through to higher realms. Although it seemed far off to gain a 100 million year lifespan in just 10 years, Guan was not anxious. He still had a trump card, which was the Outer World Cave Heaven. The 7th order medicinal herbs in the Outer World Cave Heaven couldn't mature in just a few decades, and every month, Guan brought in high-rank seeds. What Guan was currently thinking about was collecting an Immortal Path Spirit Tree. Last year, during a private auction held by Sage Tang Hai, an Immortal Path Spirit Tree appeared, but unfortunately, its price skyrocketed. Guan could not afford it due to his regular purchases of high-rank medical herbs. The other party was a great cultivator from the Star Sea congregations with deep pockets and an astonishing background. Guan had not resorted to robbing for a single tree. There was no need to make enemies, as an Immortal Path Spirit Tree would not gain him 1 million year lifespan at once. Moreover, at that time the Supreme Sect and the Star Sea congregations were on good terms. His disciple and Hao was also comfortably staying in the Star Sea congregations. There would be another chance in the future. Seizing this Heaven Ranking Tournament, Guan planned to amass wealth. He was looking forward to the upcoming excitement. He stood up, preparing to head for the Mystic Valley as an acquaintance had returned. After coming downstairs, Guan called over Yang Jian, then rode with the Blood Prison Great Saint to the Mystic Valley through teleportation. The disciples of the Mystic Valley had all seen the Blood Prison Great Saint and Yang Jian over the years, so they knew of their relationship with Guan. Guan did not go upstairs but began patrolling the gardens in the valley, with Yang Jian and the Blood Prison Great Saint following. After 10 years, the 32-year-old Yang Jian had already reached the second layer of the core formation realm. At such an age, with such cultivation, he was among the top-tier talents of the time. Considering that Yang Jian at the age of 20, was only at the third layer of Qi cultivation realm, his talent was immeasurable. Yang Jian still concealed his cultivation, appearing to be at the 7th layer of Qi cultivation realm. Yang Jian, who practiced the all things form and energy art and the heaven and earth primordial skill, had an extremely powerful Qi blood. Guan judged that cultivators at the nascent soul realm couldn't withstand his strength. With Guan's teaching, Yang Jian had grown more steady, neither arrogant nor impetuous, showing the demeanor of a true disciple. "I heard the Taoist lord of the Tsangtian sect has arrived." Yang Jian chatted with the Blood Prison Great Saint about the Heaven Ranking Tournament. The Blood Prison Great Saint was also very interested, and the two only talked about others, not their own cultivation, a habit developed under Guan's long-term instructions. After a while, a figure flew from the distant sky. It was Liya. Yang Jian turned his head to look, curiosity showing in his eyes. What a powerful aura. Liya came on his sword, like an immortal descending from the sky. After sheathing his sword, he quickly walked to the edge of the garden and greeted Guan. Guan smiled and said, "Senior brother Li, what brings you here? Wait for me for a moment." Liya nodded, his gaze inadvertently falling on Yang Jian. Although Yang Jian's cultivation was low, his demeanor was extraordinary. What is this person's relationship with junior brother Gu? Liya thought to himself. After a while, Guan handed over medicinal herbs to a servant disciple, then led Yang Jian towards Liya. He introduced Yang Jian to Liya, asking Yang Jian to greet him. Yang Jian greets Uncle Master. Yang Jian clasped his fists, neither humble nor overbearing. Although Liya's aura was strong, it couldn't compare to Guan. If Guan hadn't concealed his cultivation, the two wouldn't be considered fellow disciples. Liya, hearing this, curiously asked, "Is it the Yang Jian from the Investiture of the Gods?" Yang Jian nodded and said, "I loved reading the Investiture of the Gods since I was a child, and I changed my name to symbolize my aspiration after joining the sect." Liya smiled, then took out a treasure sword from his storage bag and gave it to Yang Jian. Yang Jian looked at Guan, and only after seeing Guan nod did he accept it. Liya pulled Guan towards the pavilion, while Guan beckoned Yang Jian to follow, causing Liya to hesitate. "Jianer is my truly accepted disciple whom I've taught everything I know. Let him follow us and broaden his horizons," Guan said with a smile. Liya, hearing this, took another look at Yang Jian. He understood Guan's implied meaning. "I see. If you ever encounter trouble while adventuring out there, you can always come to me, your uncle master," Liya said with an air of spirit, to which Yang Jian quickly expressed his gratitude. Guan found it amusing. Liya had guessed his intention correctly, but got the relationship wrong. He wasn't setting Yang Jian up with a backer but the other way around. After the three went upstairs, Liya began recounting his experiences within the Star Sea congregations. He had already become a true disciple of the Star Sea congregations, although his cultivation was the lowest among them, relying on the divine exotic city. Although Yang Jian had joined later, he had heard of the divine exotic city. Unexpectedly, the supreme sect cultivator who seized the divine exotic city years ago turned out to be his uncle master. He suddenly suspected that Liya had obtained the divine exotic city with help from his master. "By the way, I heard there was an internal assessment in the Star Sea congregations. Did you participate?" Guan suddenly asked. Liya's expression instantly became unnatural. "I did, and I got quite a good ranking, entering the top 100. I became a true disciple based on my own strength." Guan didn't believe it. Over the years, Liya had used the power of the divine exotic city quite often. "I heard and Hao also participated. What was his ranking?" Guan continued to ask. Liya's expression became even more awkward. Yang Jian's eyes lit up and he asked, "Master, are you talking about the number one genius of the supreme sect, and Hao?" "That's right, it's him." Yang Jian fell into contemplation. Liya ambiguously said, "His ranking was also good. Without using the divine exotic city, I indeed couldn't match him." Guan curiously asked, "What do you mean? Did you two meet again?" Liya felt aggrieved. Was junior brother Gu doing this on purpose? Trying to embarrass me in front of a junior? He did indeed run into an Hao. He had subdued many great cultivators with the divine exotic city. But when facing an Hao for the sake of fairness, he didn't use the divine exotic city and ended up disastrously defeated. This incident became widely known inside the Star Sea congregations, and an Hao made a name for himself by stepping on him, leaving him very frustrated. Although frustrated, he did not regret it. And Hao had always been his goal to chase. He wanted to know how far apart their real strengths were. Guan chuckled, knowing his disciple had defeated Liya. He felt a sense of satisfaction. This kind of attitude was not good. Guan changed the topic, talking about the heaven ranking tournament. Liya said the reason he came back was that the Supreme Sect had sent a message, asking him to return. The Supreme Sect needed the power of the divine exotic city to deal with great cultivators from overseas. After all, this was the first heaven ranking tournament hosted by the Supreme Sect. LV Badian hoped to maintain the title of number one in the world, even if the opponents were cultivators from Holy Lands or great cultivators from overseas. Guan felt LV Badian was not being fair, but he couldn't criticize. Dharma treasures were part of a cultivator's strength. Besides him, who on the immortal path didn't rely on Dharma treasures in combat. "Senior brother Li, what do you think of my disciple? 500 years from now, I'll have him participate in the heaven ranking tournament." Maybe he will even encounter you then, Guan said with a smile. Leah glanced at Yang Jian and said, his cultivation is a bit low. To compete for the #1 position in the world, he still needs a big opportunity. Yang Jian remained silent, standing honestly aside. Guan laughed and said, in any case, I believe my disciple has great chi fortune. He will eventually astonish the world. Although I'm uncertain if he'll live to see that day, I hope you will support each other on the immortal cultivation path, advancing and retreating together. After all, this path requires more than just oneself. These words made Li Ya emotional. He knew junior brother Gus' talent was mediocre, so he certainly couldn't vie for longevity like him. Li Ya earnestly said, rest assured your disciple is my disciple. As long as I am alive, I will protect him with my life. Anyone who dares to harm him must step over my dead body first. Yang Jian looked at Li Ya, his eyes showing a change. Chapter 241, Sword Venerable Fudao, will you battle me? Li Ya returned this time and brought many gifts for Guan, including immortal cultivation medicinal herbs and overseas magic artifacts. When Guan tried to make some polite conversation, Li Ya didn't bother with the pleasantries and left directly through the window, leaving Guan in silence. Yang Jian also marveled at what a peculiar person this uncle master was. Although Li Ya seemed unreliable, Yang Jian still held a good opinion of his actions and words. Just based on Li Ya's previous declaration that he would protect him to the death, Yang Jian acknowledged him as his uncle master. After staying in Mystic Valley for a while, Guan took Yang Jian and Blood Prison Great Saint to the Outer Gate City. With the approaching Grand Tournament, cultivators frequently flew across the sky, not just from Supreme Sect but from all over the world. No matter the outcome of the Grand Tournament, Supreme Sect was set to gain substantial benefits this time, and Guan was eager to see how much profit Supreme Sect would share with Sword Venerable Fudao. Days passed by. 5 days later, though the weather was hot, the inner and outer gate city was crowded due to the imminent start of the Grand Tournament. In front of the South City Gate, countless cultivators gathered, forming a vast sea of humans, their heads bobbing, creating a spectacular scene. Following their gaze, in the sky stood an array platform surrounded by 72 large flags, with a diameter over 100 miles, its base emitting a faint golden light forming a golden platform that blotted out the sky when looked at from below. This array, known as the Luotian Floating City Battle Array, was purchased by Supreme Sect from Star Sea congregations, specifically for great cultivators to compete in combat at a huge cost. Maintaining this array required massive amounts of spiritual energy. It was said that Supreme Sect had already channeled the spiritual energies from their underground spirit lineages into the array. Every city in Medicine Valley within Supreme Sect had formations projecting the scene of the Luotian Floating City Battle Array. These transmission formations were not very expensive, so even Mystic Valley had an array set up by Supreme Sect, allowing all disciples in the valley to watch the match. In the third Medicine Valley, over 900 disciples gathered in the pavilion area, some meditating on the ground, some sitting on benches, looking up at the light screen in the sky, waiting for the Grand Tournament to begin. Before the combat even started, the disciples were already excitedly discussing. Guan sat by a stone table savoring pastries. Yang Jian and Xian Xiaochuan and Yu Yingying sat at the same table, also discussing the Grand Tournament. The names of each great cultivator were mentioned from their mouths. Over the past decade, many oceanic great cultivators had established their fame in the 3 dynasties, making it uncertain who would claim the title of the world's #1. These ocean cultivators temporarily stayed in the 3 dynasties region, leaving many opportunities behind, promoting the development of the immortal cultivation world and establishing a reputation for virtue and greatness. Yu Yingying mentioned an ocean great cultivator named Yellow-Robed Immortal Lord. Yellow-Robed Immortal Lord claimed to be the reincarnation of an immortal, possessing vast divine skills. The Star Sea congregations tried to recruit him but were refused. His whereabouts were mysterious, like a dragon glimpsed but never seen fully. He liked to teach beings with mediocre talents, earning admiration. She believed Yellow-Robed Immortal Lord could claim the first position in the Grand Tournament. Xiaochuan couldn't help but say, "Why are these ocean great cultivators meddling in the Grand Tournament? Isn't this bullying?" Yu Yingying replied, "Although the 3 dynasties region is weak, the 7-star spirit realm in the mainland is not. As long as cultivators from the 7-star spirit realm participate, other great cultivators will be drawn in, all wanting to establish their fame by stepping over the 7-star spirit realm. Of course there might be undercurrents I'm unaware of. This grand tournament is indeed unusual with so many great cultivators joining. An Xian nodded, saying, "It said there are 500 participants, with half coming from overseas. The 3 dynasties cultivators only make up a third. Besides Liya, the weakest among them is in the Mystic Heart realm." Many withdrew after seeing the participant list, leading to the current situation. Yang Jian remained silent, gazing at the illusion in the sky with yearning in his eyes. The title of the world's #1 was certainly mesmerizing. Guan didn't join their discussion. He knew the level of participants in the grand tournament better than anyone. Currently, 5 loose immortals had gathered within Supreme Sect. The number of Nirvana realm cultivators reached 17, and there were over 100 Mahayana realm cultivators. If nothing unexpected happened, sects within the 3 dynasties couldn't hope to claim the first position in the grand tournament, or even make it into the top 20. The only hope lay with the supernatural cities Liya. Moreover, Guan sensed a wandering immortal's presence, hidden in the mountains outside Supreme Sect, purpose unknown. This grand tournament was no longer just a test among the immortal cultivation world of the 3 dynasties. Guan wasn't worried though. If Supreme Sect faced destruction, he would intervene. If they weren't in danger, he wouldn't act even if Supreme Sect lost. One must accept their inferiority. Until noon, the Luotian floating city battle array finally changed. The 72 large flags trembled, bursting with golden light, quickly forming a majestic palace, vast and transparent, allowing the outside world to see inside. Today the first grand tournament of Supreme Sect will begin. I am LV Badian, the Supreme Sect leader, here to announce the rules of the grand tournament. It's all about winning. No killing. LV Badian's voice spread throughout Supreme Sect through the array light screens, silencing the hustle and bustle instantly. Guan turned his head, asking an Xian to bring over a few more plates of pastries, and an Xian immediately obeyed. After a while, LV Badian finished explaining the rules of the grand tournament and began announcing the first match. The first match today will be between the Zhangtian sect. Before LV Badian finished his words, a vast pressure engulfed Supreme Sect, interrupting him. Wait a moment. An aged voice echoed between heaven and earth, catching countless people off guard. Was someone going to interfere with the grand tournament? Yang Jian and the others beside Guan also tensed up. Before the grand tournament begins, could Sword Venerable Fudao have a match with me? I am Bai Luo, the island master of Jinghai Bai Luo Island, known as Sage Bai Luo. The aged voice's words caused a tremendous uproar within Supreme Sect. Someone dared to challenge Sword Venerable Fudao. Yu Yingying frowned, saying, Sage Bai Luo? How was he involved? Did he align with someone? Xiaochuan couldn't help but ask, what realm is Sage Bai Luo in? Is he also an immortal? He is an immortal. As for his specific cultivation level, I'm not sure. He's beyond my reach. I just heard rumors, Yu Yingying replied. Meanwhile, a figure appeared within the Luotian floating city battle array, prompting countless people to look up. Through the array light screens they saw the figure. Clad in a green robe, the figure stood tall, holding a long staff. His white hair was coiled under a jade crown, his face old and stern, with green flames burning atop the staff, resembling coiling dragons and serpents, emitting a mysterious aura. Sage Bai Luo. An overwhelming ancient aura descends upon him, causing every cultivator who witnessed his true form to feel an innate sense of awe, akin to mortals gazing at the vast sky, instinctively revering heaven. In the outer gate city, on the heavenly repair platform, Supreme Sect's high-ranking officials gathered. LV Badian, Jihan Tian, and Shen Quan were all present. Zuijian stood beside the heaven-cutting axe, frowning, his gaze towards Sage Bai Luo filled with hostility. For such a grand occasion, someone jumped out to challenge Sword Venerable Fudao, appearing to harbor ill intentions. However, he wasn't worried, even somewhat excited. Sword Venerable Fudao had not taken action for many years. Although his legend remained, overseas cultivators were unclear about his actual strength. LV Badian looked up at the Luotian floating city battle array, frowning and snorting coldly. As expected, someone is looking for trouble. I just don't know which force sent him. If Sword Venerable Fudao were defeated or refused to fight, Supreme Sect's control over the grand tournament would weaken sharply, potentially leading to the tournament's collapse and a crisis of annihilation for Supreme Sect. Gu Zong looked at LV Badian, whispering, Sect leader, this person isn't on the participant list. LV Beidian nodded, replying calmly, "Then let's wait and see. It's time for the overseas cultivators to witness his power." Other high-ranking officials in Supreme Sect also showed anticipation. Sword Venerable Fudao was not only invincible in the hearts of Supreme Sect's disciples, but also to these high-ranking cultivators. He quelled internal strife, slew demon ancestors, killed immortals, vanquished evil demons and more. Sword Venerable Fudao's might wasn't just talk, it was established through battles witnessed by Supreme Sect's disciples. In the Third Medicine Valley. Just by listening to the disciples' discussions, Guan realized he couldn't avoid taking action. So be it, it had been a long time since he showcased his swordsmanship. Guan leaned against the stone table, swirling his wine cup with one hand, a slight smile playing at the corner of his mouth. Yang Jian, who had been observing his master, noticed the change in his master's expression and felt a shock in his heart. Could it be that Sword Venerable Fudao was his master? Having learned about Sword Venerable Fudao's legendary tales over the years, Yang Jian had often speculated about this. Could a sect hide two mysterious powerhouses surpassing all disciples? Sword Venerable Fudao, could it be that you dare not show yourself? Or do you look down upon someone from a remote island like me? Sage Bai Luo's voice rang out again, majestic and resounding. Hearing his mocking words, Supreme Sect's disciples were enraged, their anger surpassing their innate reverence. They began hoping that Sword Venerable Fudao would take action and teach this oceanic rogue a good lesson. Rumble. Suddenly the sky's weather changed, clouds churned, white clouds turned black, and the world darkened, prompting countless people to look up. Inside the Luotian floating city battle array, Sage Bai Luo also looked up, seeing the rolling thunderclouds. He snorted, shaking his long staff, and his vast mana erupted, forming two azure dragons coiling within the array palace. Their bodies spanned 100 miles, enough to silence all beings. The two azure dragons slowly lifted their heads, roaring towards the sky, their dragon cries echoing endlessly. It is said that Sword Venerable Fudao's swordsmanship is unparalleled in the world. Today let's see if you can break my array. Sage Bai Luo's voice echoed again. He waved his sleeve, sending countless magic artifacts into the air between the two azure dragons. Wind and fire swirled, entangling the dragons, causing them to grow rapidly, their heads piercing the top of the Luotian floating city battle array. At that moment, the thunderclouds suddenly parted, revealing a vast starry sea in the sky. All creatures' eyes reflected the resplendent starry sea, magnificent and fantastical. Chapter 242, The Sword Intent That Silences Heaven and Earth. The moment the vast star-suppressing heaven-boundless sword was unleashed, a majestic panorama of the starry sea unfolded above the sky, occupying the vision of all cultivators within the Supreme Sect. When the demon ancestor had previously attacked the northern territory, this sword array had also appeared, but only the frontline cultivators had seen it. Now, 90% of the cultivators within the Supreme Sect were seeing this sword array for the first time, and they were all astounded. Especially the disciples who had joined the Supreme Sect in the past few decades, they were utterly stupefied. A sword array capable of changing the heavens, how many years of cultivation would it take to reach such a level? Within the Luotian floating city battle array, Sage Bai Luo was locked in by the sword intent of the vast star-suppressing heaven-boundless sword. The moment the infinite starry sea appeared, he felt his mana solidify within him, a suppression so intense that it made his heart pound. Sage Bai Luo's face paled, regret creeping into his heart. He had thought that Sword Venerable Fudao was merely a wandering immortal. After all, Sword Venerable Fudao had previously only slain loose immortals. Despite knowing he might not be a match for Fudao, he believed he could at least gauge his opponent's strength. Now, feeling the sword intent of Fudao, he was reminded of the insignificance he felt a million years ago. The gap between them was immense, at least a full major realm apart. He was a wandering immortal, so Sword Venerable Fudao must be. Heaven and earth, Sage Bai Luo muttered through gritted teeth. This time he did not call out to heaven and earth, knowing he couldn't escape and had no choice but to fight to the bitter end. After a brief moment of silence, the Supreme Sect exploded in an uproar. Countless disciples of the Supreme Sect raised their arms and cheered. The high-level cultivators on the heavenly repair platform were equally excited, with Zuijian beside the heaven-cutting axe even kneeling down in a posture of devout worship. In the Third Medicine Valley, over 900 disciples were similarly excited, shouting the name of Sword Venerable Fudao. Yu Yingying saw Sword Venerable Fudao in action for the first time, her small mouth agape with an expression of incredulity. Yang Jian was also frightened. What kind of sword array was this? Too exaggerated. He couldn't help but look at Guan, who also wore a shocked expression. Could Sword Venerable Fudao not be his master? Indeed, he had not sensed his master's mana dissipating. Pay close attention and see how much you can comprehend. Guan's voice suddenly reached Yang Jian's ears, making him widen his eyes in astonishment. Was his master really Sword Venerable Fudao? The sword array. How did he accomplish it? He didn't see him make a move. Already having formed his core, Yang Jian felt he had a deep understanding of immortal cultivation, but today his master's technique overturned his comprehension. The vast star-suppressing heaven-boundless sword was high above, far from the third medicine valley. No one would have thought that Sword Venerable Fudao was hiding here. Yang Jian had thought that Sword Venerable Fudao was up in that vast starry sea, overlooking all beings. At that moment, the stars in the vast sea burst into light, and one by one stars began to fall, more and more densely packed, with a momentum that suggested the sky was collapsing, bringing the clamor of heaven and earth to a sudden halt. All beings looked up, their eyes wide and silent, as if witnessing an immortal phenomenon. Countless stars fell, bursting with sword chi, causing the trees of the mountains and rivers to sway violently, and dust to be swept away into the distance. Within the inner sect city, Leah stayed in a courtyard, looking up at the vast star-suppressing heaven-boundless sword, secretly alarmed. Could the Taitsong divine shocking sword reach such a degree? He turned his head to look at the divine exotic immortal spirit on his shoulder and asked, could divine exotic city withstand this sword with its power? Withstand? I almost got killed by him and you're asking me that? The divine exotic immortal spirit, feeling the sword intent from the sky, could confirm that Sword Venerable Fudao was indeed his master. He replied, not sure. His voice, full of childishness, contrasted sharply with his inner thoughts. Leah continued watching the light screen in the sky, wanting to see if Sage Bai Luo could withstand a single strike from Sword Venerable Fudao. Facing the endless stream of star sword energy, Sage Bai Luo shouted angrily, raising his staff as surging mana flowed into two azure dragons, which were wreathed in fierce flames and strong winds as they soared into the sky. The dragon's roar exploded. Countless people held their breath. Numerous streams of star sword energy fell, colliding with the dragons in midair. The gigantic azure dragons, ridge-like, were blocked abruptly. Starting from the dragon's head, they were shattered one after another, dissolving into azure winds sweeping across the world. In an instant, the two azure dragons were obliterated by the star sword energy. The power of the sword chi was unstoppable. Sage Bai Luo was illuminated by the sword light, his eyes widened, filled with fear. As the relentless star sword energy poured into the Luo Tian floating city battle array, a resplendent sword light erupted, causing heaven and earth to lose color and countless beings to close their eyes. Blinded, only the sound of the wind could be heard. Several breaths later, cultivators gradually regained their vision. As more and more people opened their eyes, when they saw the scene within the light screen in the sky, their hearts raced. The Luo Tian floating city battle array remained, but its golden light at the base fluctuated violently, on the verge of dispersing, while Sage Bai Luo, kneeling inside, maintained a raised staff stance. The staff in his hands was only half remaining, smoldering, and he was covered in blood, his hair disheveled and utterly battered. Sage Bai Luo trembled all over, his bulging eyes bloodshot. The infinite starry panorama was slowly dissipating, signaling the end of the battle. Sage Bai Luo's heart filled with endless fear. Luckily, he had sought battle before the heavenly ranking tournament. Otherwise at any other time he might have perished. He couldn't even withstand a single move from Sword Venerable Fudao. Gritting his teeth, he wobbled to his feet, turning and flying towards the horizon, rapidly escaping the Luo Tian floating city battle array and disappearing to the edge of the sky. When he came he was wildly boastful, but when he left, he was a defeated silence. Heaven and earth erupted in thunderous cheers. So strong. This is the strength of Sword Venerable Fudao? That Sage Bai Luo was so arrogant before, who would have thought he'd be defeated so completely? If the sect leader hadn't set the rules, I bet he'd be dead. No kidding, once Sword Venerable Fudao makes a move, who can survive? It said the vice sect leader survived. Could he also be an immortal? Disciples of the Supreme Sect jeered at Sage Bai Luo and praised the overwhelming power of Sword Venerable Fudao. Even disciples from other sects were excited. though the great cultivators preparing for the heavenly ranking tournament grew tense. After this battle they dared not act recklessly. The sword intent just now had snuffed out any fighting spirit. The morale of the supreme sect soared, the sect bustling as if celebrating the new year. Once the sword intent illusion above the sky completely disappeared, the Luotian floating city battle array also returned to its full state. The first match of the heavenly ranking tournament, Zhou Zhu of Heaven Sect versus Gu Xian of the Supreme Sect. LV Baishan's voice rang out again, this time brimming with dominance, as if he were Sword Venerable Fudao himself. Following his words, Zhou Zhu and Gu Xian flew into the array. Zhou Zhu's face was complicated while Gu Xian looked spirited. They exchanged a few words, judging by the mouth movements. It seemed Gu Xian was mocking the Zhou family's choice. In the third Medicine Valley. Guan stood up and said, "You all keep watching, I'll go fetch something from inside." An Xian and Xiaochuan nodded, while Yu Yingying remained immersed in the grandeur of Sword Venerable Fudao. Yang Jian watched Guan's departing figure, his mind speculating. He didn't bother thinking about the fate of Sage Bai Luo. Instead, he began to recall the magnificence of the vast star-suppressing heaven-boundless sword. He had thought that executing Sword Dao required a sword, but his master had neither drawn a sword nor moved an inch earlier, yet a sword array was created by mere thought? Unbelievable. Yang Jian felt a surge of hot blood in his chest. One day he too would create such divine skills. Covered in blood, Sage Bai Luo swiftly flew off the continent, unable to calm his heart, fearing that Sword Venerable Fudao might pursue him. At the same time, his eyes were filled with rage. Damn the Seven Stars Spirit Realm for such inaccurate intelligence. No wonder they sent me as cannon fodder, despicable. Sage Bai Luo thought hatefully as he cursed the Seven Stars Spirit Realm. He took out an elixir and quickly swallowed it, speeding up his flight. As he passed an island, a hand suddenly landed on his shoulder, his face changed dramatically, and before he could react, an immense force he had never felt before pressed down, causing his body to plummet rapidly. Boom. Dust erupted from the forest in the depths of the island, causing the entire island to quake, with waves surging on the surrounding sea. The dust cleared, trees lay toppled, and a massive crater appeared. Under the sunlight, Sage Bai Luo knelt within the crater, a dark purple demonic hand on his shoulder. Looking back, it was Guan in the 9 extreme Xinjiang body state. Sage Bai Luo was terrified, struggling to look back, his pupils dilated in shock. He couldn't stand up, nor could his primordial spirit emerge. At that moment he was like a mere mortal, powerless to resist. His terror peaked and despair cloaked his heart. Sword Venerable. Sage Bai Luo stuttered, but before he could finish, a terrifying divine sense surged into his mind, causing his eyes to lose their luster. The sea breeze blew, scattering the nearby dust and fluttering Sage Bai Luo's tattered robes. Guan used the soul-capturing skill to search Sage Bai Luo's memories. Not long after, he retracted his divine sense, his right palm igniting with 3 pure one's true fire, swiftly enveloping Sage Bai Luo. Even though Sage Bai Luo was just a tool, daring to provoke him meant death. If Guan had not been a match for Sage Bai Luo today, he would have been the one to die. In a saying from his past life, showing mercy to one's enemy is being cruel to oneself. Guan conveniently took Sage Bai Luo's storage ring, but his mind dwelled on the 7-star spirit realm. The force behind Sage Bai Luo's probing of Sword Venerable Fudao was indeed the 7-star spirit realm. However, in Sage Bai Luo's memories, there was no encounter with an actual cultivator of the 7-star spirit realm, only a ghost meeting him for the discussion. As long as Sage Bai Luo agreed after the mission, the 7-star spirit realm would offer him an opportunity to listen to Dao lectures. What specific Dao the memories didn't specify, but judging by Sage Bai Luo's excitement, it must be extraordinary. Could it be the lectures of the heaven and earth flying immortal? Could there be a carefree primordial immortal in the 7-star spirit realm? Guan fell into contemplation. Regardless, after today the 7-star spirit realm would be fully targeting Sword Venerable Fudao. It was necessary to probe the depths of the 7-star spirit realm. If there was no carefree primordial immortal, it must be eradicated. Guan's heart harbored killing intent. Without exterminating the 7-star spirit realm, he wouldn't feel at peace. Chapter 243 The Pressure from Sword Venerable Fudao in the Third Medicine Valley. Guan went downstairs and returned to the stone table, where he watched the grand battle of the Tianbang tournament with the disciples. Killing Sage Bai Luo earned Guan a lifespan of more than 7,000 years, which wasn't too bad. Sage Bai Luo was over 70,000 years old. He hadn't broken through a minor realm in over 10,000 years, so he had been searching for immortality opportunities for many years. The 7-star spirit realm targeted his needs to lure him into action. Guan did not sympathize with Sage Bai Luo. People always have to take responsibility for their choices. What he was considering now was how to deal with the 7-star spirit realm. If the 7-star spirit realm hadn't plotted against him, he might not have confronted them. After all, delaying time was more beneficial to him. The first match of the Tianbang tournament had not yet ended. It was difficult for great cultivators of the same realm to determine a winner. Gu Xian and Zhou Zhu both had Mystic Heart Realm cultivation and evidently had a real grudge, using all their skills to the fullest, providing a feast for the spectators' eyes. It is said that the Zhou family has withdrawn all its disciples from the Supreme Sect, while the Gu family has done the opposite, fully supporting the Supreme Sect. Both sides are clashing, likely hiding a battle of pride. With Sword Venerable Fudao around, how could the Zhou family be so short-sighted? Who knows what kind of bewitching potion that Sangtian sect gave the Zhou family. It is said that until now, Sword Venerable Fudao has not attacked other sects, so those sects might hold on to illusions, thinking they have a chance to win him over. The combat between Mystic Heart Realm cultivators is already so fierce. I cannot imagine what the battle between Mahayana Realm cultivators would be like. The Supreme Sect was abuzz with discussions about the Tianbang combats, and the grudges between the Zhou family and the Supreme Sect spread throughout cities and towns. An Xian and Xiaochuan, who were beside Guan, were discussing this matter. Yu Yingying from the Star Sea congregations ridiculed the Zhou family for their stupidity in believing that Sangtian sect's nonsense. In her view, the only reason Sword Venerable Fudao stayed at the Supreme Sect was due to a sense of affinity. The combined resources of the Three Morning Land couldn't possibly entice him. Yang Jian was also pondering what charm the Supreme Sect had to keep his master there. The first match of the Tianbang tournament concluded with Gu Xian's victory. As the host, the Supreme Sect gained considerable prestige. Even the overseas cultivators had to change their views on them. Guan desired longevity, and before reaching the other shore of longevity, he couldn't comfortably enjoy fame. Liu was different. He yearned for freedom and fame, walking a path completely different from Guan's. Guan did not think his path was wrong. After all, not everyone had the ability to steal lifespans like him. If he didn't have that ability, Guan would also have to go on the run, risking everything for opportunities. Guan eagerly anticipated seeing how far Liya could go, whether he could transcend heavenly destiny and achieve nirvana. Liya's ultimate lifespan had not increased until now. Within the Luotian floating city battle array, Liya stood proudly with a divine exotic immortal spirit perched on his shoulder. The small, pitch-black creature bared its teeth and claws at Liya's opponent, looking very cute. Liya's opponent was an old man in a Taoist robe with third-layer Nirvana realm cultivation. At this moment, facing Liya, the man's expression was solemn. He silently cursed the Supreme Sect for their shamelessness. Dealing with Liya, even if he won, it would not be a fair victory due to the significant gap in their cultivation levels. But if he lost, he would be utterly embarrassed. Why didn't they arrange a loose immortal opponent for Liya, who had an immortal path supreme treasure? Were they using him as a whetstone? The Taoist-robed old man took a deep breath, drew out his Dharma treasure and prepared for battle. Liya said nothing and directly summoned the divine exotic city. The divine exotic city flew out of his body, rapidly expanding and transforming into a phantom that enveloped his figure, continuously occupying space inside the array. The appearance of the divine exotic city caused a clamor throughout the Supreme Sect. Most cultivators were seeing the divine exotic city for the first time, and they were very excited. With the divine exotic city visible, the battle's outcome was already predictable. Although it was a duel between Liya and the Taoist-robed old man, in reality, it was the divine exotic immortal spirit fighting on behalf of Liya. However, inside the divine exotic city, Liya would also bear some pressure. If he faced a wandering immortal in a prolonged battle, the divine exotic immortal spirit might be undefeated, but Liya could be shaken to death. Of course, there were no wandering immortals in the Tianbang tournament. The only wandering immortal had already been slain by Guan. The following battle had the spectators entirely appreciating the power of the divine exotic city. The endless swarms of divine soul demons surged out, their combined aura both awe-inspiring and terrifying. After Li Ya's victory, the atmosphere of the Tianbang tournament reached its peak. Guan saw Shenzhen still sketching the divine exotic city in front of his cave residence. A month passed quickly, and the participants in the Tianbang tournament had been reduced from 500 to 30. Some had a buy-in between, and the remaining 30, besides Li Ya, were at least in the Mahayana realm. Besides Li Ya, the most prominent were yellow-robed Immortal Lord and Yan Qitian of the Star Sea congregations. Yan Qitian was at the 9th layer of the loose Immortal realm. Only yellow-robed Immortal Lord could match his true cultivation level. Late at night, in an estate within the inner sect city, Yan Qitian was sitting cross-legged inside, cultivating energy to recover his mana. He wore a close-fitting black robe embroidered with dragon and tiger patterns, looking very imposing. Suddenly he heard footsteps and immediately opened his eyes to see a dark purple demonic shadow appear inside the room, startling him to his feet. "Who goes there?" Yan Qitian asked in a deep voice. The other party had managed to reach him without detection. The footsteps were clearly an intentional alert. Someone of such cultivation wouldn't make footsteps while walking. He carefully scrutinized the figure, suddenly realizing something. His expression changed slightly and he said, "Could it be that you are Sword Venerable Fudao?" Gu An's divine sense had already enveloped the estate. No one could spy on them. He spoke, "What is the Star Sea congregation's actual stance toward the 7-star spirit realm?" Hearing this, Yan Qitian secretly relaxed as the other party had spoken, meaning they could talk. Having witnessed the vast star-suppressing heaven-boundless sword, he didn't consider himself a match for Sword Venerable Fudao. Even wandering immortals couldn't take a single move from him. How could he resist? He didn't answer immediately, instead falling into deep thought. Guan cast a lifespan detection on him. Yan Qitian, Loose Immortal Realm 9th Layer 14590/25000/50,000. With a maximum lifespan of 50,000 years, he seemed to have the potential of a wandering immortal. Guan thought silently and wasn't in a hurry, waiting for Yan Qitian's response. In fact, he didn't need to ask. The Star Sea congregations had long been at war with the 7-star spirit realm. He was merely following protocol, examining the attitude of the Star Sea congregation's cultivators toward the 7-star spirit realm. Yan Qitian took a deep breath and said, "To be honest, our grudge with the 7-star spirit realm has lasted for hundreds of thousands of years, reaching an irreconcilable stage. It won't be long before the Star Sea congregations launch a full-scale attack on the 7-star spirit realm." He organized his thoughts about the happenings on this continent, feeling that Sword Venerable Fudao was against the 7-star spirit realm. When Shen Tianyi of the Supreme Sect returned to the Star Sea congregations, he had spoken ill of the 7-star spirit realm everywhere. Guan said, "After the Tianbang tournament ends, return to the Star Sea congregations and collect all information on the 7-star spirit realm for me, especially regarding the cultivation realms of their cultivators. I only want the information. You won't be shortchanged. This is a personal deal between you and me, without involving the Star Sea congregations. You must not mention this to anyone." Hearing this, Yan Qitian was delighted. Was Sword Venerable Fudao going to deal with the 7-star spirit realm? He quickly agreed, "No problem. There's no need for a deal, senior. I'll collect the information for you for free. The 7-star spirit realm is not only your enemy but ours as well." But it's best not to inform the Star Sea congregations about this, at least not for now." "Understood, senior." Guan immediately disappeared from the spot. Yan Qitian breathed a sigh of relief, feeling immense pressure facing Sword Venerable Fudao. It felt like walking on a knife's edge. Could it be that Sage Bai Luo was invited by the 7-star spirit realm? Yan Qitian pondered. He had heard of Sage Bai Luo's deeds. This person rarely provoked others. His challenge to Sword Venerable Fudao before the Tianbang tournament was clearly out of enmity. Chapter 244. Are you really in the energy cultivation realm? The struggle for the top 30 in the Heavenly List tournament became even more intense than before. At this stage, opponents of the same realm required a long time to secure victory, unless there was a significant disparity in their minor realms. Days passed by. The number of cultivators coming to the Supreme Sect to watch the tournament grew, and the entire immortal cultivation world was discussing the Heavenly List tournament. Cultivators who displayed their talents in the tournament became famous worldwide and were revered by countless cultivators. After half a month, 15 cultivators remained in the Heavenly List tournament. Xiao Dai from the Supreme Sect advanced again without contest, successfully entering the top 15, causing much discussion among the cultivators. Everyone could see that the Supreme Sect was protecting Xiao Dai, but his Xiao family came from the 7-star spirit realm, which made many hesitate to openly question him. Liya also successfully entered the top 15, but his condition was worrisome. The high-intensity combat had continuously inflicted internal injuries on his physical body, and fighting between mortal spirits and immortal spirits also harmed the soul. Everything has its pros and cons. Guan didn't help Liya too much, as he needed Liya to respect the power far beyond his own. Nevertheless, the Supreme Sect had succeeded, as there were no cultivators from the Zhangtian sect in the top 15. Apart from the Supreme Sect, the best rank among the 3 dynasty sects was 29th, held by a Taoist lord of the Zhangtian sect. With 2 cultivators from the Supreme Sect in the top 15, it solidified their position in the immortal cultivation world of the 3 dynasties. Another 10 days passed, and only 8 cultivators remained vying for the top spot in the Heavenly List. The Supreme Sect held 2 places, represented by Liya and Xiao Dai, who advanced by default. In the battle of the top 8, Xiao Dai fell in the first match, stopping at the 8th position. Liya, relying on Divine Exotic City, advanced to the top 4 but ultimately stopped at 4th place. His chi was exhausted, and he fainted on the battlefield after just summoning the army of Divine Soul demons. The disciples of the Supreme Sect weren't disappointed but rather admired Liya. Liya, barely over 100 years old, shouldered the honor and mission of the entire sect. Reaching 4th place in the Heavenly List tournament was already commendable. In the previous Golden List tournament, Liya encountered An Hao early and didn't even make the top 500. This time, winning 3rd place, Guan thought he should have no regrets. As Guan had speculated, the final contenders for the top spot in the Heavenly List were the yellow-robed Immortal Lord and Yan Qitian. Their grand battle lasted 3 days and 3 nights, finally ending with Yan Qitian conceding defeat. The Supreme Sect remained bustling, and the tax revenue from various resource transactions delighted the sect leaders. The first Heavenly List tournament was highly successful. Other sects couldn't easily imitate such grandeur. Only until autumn did the Supreme Sect regain its peace. Before leaving, Liya visited Guan. They chatted for 2 ancient hours before Liya departed with grace. This time he truly became a hero, gaining great renown. In the immortal cultivation world of the 3 dynasties, his fame overshadowed both the yellow-robed Immortal Lord and Yan Qitian, because he was one of their own and due to his age and legendary experiences. These matters had little to do with Guan. The Heavenly List tournament was just a minor episode for him. What truly pleased him was that the Supreme Sect had obtained the storage bag before the heaven-cutting axe. It was the highest-grade storage bag containing an immense amount of spirit stones. After calculating, he felt that the Supreme Sect had not deceived him, showing great sincerity. The disappearance of that storage bag also thrilled the higher-ups of the Supreme Sect, as they believed it signaled an even closer relationship with Sword Venerable Fudao. The Supreme Sect acted swiftly, and the roster of the Heavenly List tournament quickly spread throughout the immortal cultivation world, distributed freely. Through the roster, they learned about the origins and formidable cultivation levels of the Heavenly List great cultivators. Unconsciously, the Supreme Sect's image became even grander in their minds. To summon so many immortals for combat, the Supreme Sect was undoubtedly the premier sect in the immortal cultivation world. In the Taizong dynasty, Songzhou in the palace garden. Li Xiandao, clad in a dragon robe, sat at a table, perusing the Heavenly List and softly praised, "The Supreme Sect is ruthless with this move. With this roster, the world will believe the Supreme Sect has the power to summon immortals." Sitting across from him was a woman, Jiang. Behind Jiang stood 2 figures, 2 ghost cultivators from the 9 Nether 13 Evil, while behind Li Xiandao stood 2 great cultivators, one of whom was Yi Luyun, who had once cultivated in Tianya Valley. Jiang chuckled, "Isn't your majesty the one who truly benefits? Prince Li Ya's name is renowned worldwide now, who doesn't know he is your son?" Speaking of Li Ya, her feelings were complex. She and the ghost mother of Ephemera had wandered Divine Exotic City, nearly dying, only for a younger generation to obtain it. How could they not feel envious and dejected? Zhou Tongyu himself was a physical cultivator and had even cultivated the evil-suppressing golden body. Then Guan invited Zhou Tongyu to enter the valley for a chat, but he refused, saying he had other matters and had to leave after the spar. Guan didn't insist, watching him leave. Yang Jian scratched his head and asked, "Master, did I offend him?" Guan looked at Zhou Tongju's back and said, "It's all right. Letting him know early that there's always someone better is not a bad thing." Guan still had a good impression of Zhou Tongyu. This guy's actions may be harsh, but his ability to guide those casual cultivators shows a kind heart. The conflict with the Zhou family was hidden and shouldn't affect his relationship with Zhou Tongyu. Zhou Tongju's visit to the Supreme Sect this time was likely an attempt by the Zhou family to mend their relationship with the sect. There was no deep hatred between them, perhaps they could let things go in the future. "Master, do you think my battle just now had any problems?" Yang Jian humbly asked for advice. Guan didn't hold back and began to critique. The blood prison great saint approached, looking pitifully at Guan. Only after Guan patted his ox head did his mood improve. "He's just a mortal, what are you fussing about?" Guan's words made the blood prison great saint smile widely. The Jueshan sect was a righteous path sect within the Taizong dynasty. During the previous demon disaster, they had also given their all, maintaining a good relationship with the Supreme Sect. This time, the genius disciples of the Jueshan sect came to spar with those of the Supreme Sect, causing quite a stir. Pan-An's Supreme Immortal Venerable was still very famous within the Supreme Sect. It was no secret that Zhou Tongyu in the book was the same Zhou Tongyu from the Jueshan sect, so many people paid attention to his performance. Zhou Tongyu swept through the Supreme Sect's disciples, showcasing the brilliance of decades past until he met Wuju. Without suppressing their cultivation levels, relying on their skills alone, Zhou Tongyu couldn't defeat Wuju, solidifying Wuju's reputation as a genius. Wuju was a genius nurtured by the Supreme Sect after and how, with extremely fast cultivation speed. He had once been a golden list genius. Now, having defeated Zhou Tongyu, he dispelled any remaining doubts and made the Supreme Sect's disciples more hopeful for him. On the night of the full moon, LV Badian and Guan were drinking together in a room. Wuju sees you as his only brother, Leah considers you the most important person, Zhang Buku regards you as his only elder, and in house sister apprentices under you. Ji Xiaoyu from the Ji family grew up with you. Even Guyu, the son of the Guzong, has a good relationship with you. You little brat, and you still say you don't have the ambition to be the next sect leader? LV Badian glared as he spoke. He truly admired Guan, who could always make friends with geniuses and form excellent relationships. Of course he could understand why. Yan Qiqian hurriedly took out a scroll from his storage ring, offering it with both hands, nervously replying, "This is collected through the power of my family and master." Though not entirely clear, it should give a general understanding of the Seven Stars Spirit Realm's strength. Guan made a gesture, and the scroll entered his hand. His divine sense penetrated it, dispelling all the restrictions within. Yan Qiqian nervously stood aside, fearing that Sword Venerable Fudao might suddenly decide to kill him. He didn't dare to flee as it would be useless. It was better to try to make a good impression. After a while, Guan looked at him and said, "You did well. Our transaction hasn't been leaked, right?" Yan Qiqian quickly replied, "Only my master knows. I mentioned a mysterious senior with a grudge against the Seven Stars Spirit Realm wanting information. My master didn't press further. Except for me, no one knows it's you." Guan nodded. Yan Qiqian added, "Senior, dealing with the Seven Stars Spirit Realm can't be done rashly. If you are willing, why not join forces with our Star Sea congregations? From the information I've gathered, the cave master of One Star Cave is a heaven and earth flying immortal who achieved it 50,000 years ago. Even our sect hierarch isn't confident in defeating him." Heaven and earth flying immortal, are they strong? Guan's question left Yan Qiqian speechless. Are they strong? Yan Qiqian opened his mouth, suddenly realizing something. Could it be that the other party wasn't unaware of the heaven and earth flying immortal realm but simply didn't fear any heaven and earth flying immortal? His gaze changed instantly. Looking at Guan, he felt an urge to kneel on the spot. "You did well. Tonight's conversation must not be mentioned to anyone. If you dare to speak of it, no matter where you hide, I will find you and no one can stop me." Guan suddenly spoke, scaring Yan Qiqian, who immediately bent over and promised. After he finished speaking, Guan stepped up to him and placed 2 fingers on his forehead, making him stiffen and his eyes go vacant. Under the moonlit night in a courtyard, Ji Xiaoyu was meditating in a pavilion, continuously casting spells, and cultivating some sort of cultivation technique. A figure walked in from the yard, a middle-aged man in a large robe with a stern countenance. He stopped before the pavilion, gazing at Ji Xiaoyu and sighing, "Xiaoyu, have you still not made up your mind?" Ji Xiaoyu did not respond. "The primordial Taoist talisman truly is extraordinary, but our Ji family can't protect it. Moreover, now that the Ji family has allied with the seven-star spirit realm, we can only choose to trust them," the middle-aged man said earnestly. Ji Xiaoyu opened her eyes and looked at him calmly, her gaze making him feel uneasy. Chapter 247. Reincarnation does not permit you either. Thinking it over, Guan decided to use the Heavenly Residence Sword. The Heavenly Residence Sword was a divine sword gifted to him by Li Ya, one of the 3 emperor swords of the Taizong dynasty. Although the emperor sword was not very useful to him now, the elegant form of the Heavenly Residence Sword made it worth using. Guan also thought of Lu Lingjun, who wielded 2 swords in battle, and felt that he could try using a 2-handed sword as well. He had no pressure dealing with the 6 stars cave and 7 stars cave of the 7-star spirit realm. Guan went downstairs and made his way to Lu Jiojia, who quickly saluted him and introduced 2 new disciples. The 2 servant disciples were very nervous in front of Guan, not like Li Ya and Meng Lang, who were impatient with Cheng Shendan and Zhang Chuanqiu back in the day. The current status of the supreme sect in the Taizong dynasty was far beyond what it was 100 years ago, now being the top sect in the continent's immortal cultivation world, second only to the legendary Holy Land. Guan did not adhere strictly to the rules but instead gently encouraged the 2 new disciples, leaving them pleasantly surprised. After he left, the 2 disciples were filled with anticipation for their upcoming life in the Mystic Valley. Guan did not head to the 3rd Medicine Valley but walked towards the mountains and forests outside the valley. He appreciated the scenery along the way and realized it had been many years since he last experienced the surroundings of the Mystic Valley on foot. Back then he raced around the mountains with Xiaochuan and life was carefree. To feel such nostalgia after just over 100 years, imagine what it will be like in 10,000 years. Guan suddenly thought, then adjusted his emotions, preparing to invade the 7-star spirit realm. Today the 7-star spirit realm was about to undergo a significant change, presenting the perfect opportunity for him. Sunlight poured into the courtyard where Ji Qingkuan and numerous members of the Ji family stood, chatting and laughing. A number of cultivators floated in the distant sky, each like an immortal, showcasing their unique styles. This Ji mansion, located atop a solitary mountain, covered an area of over 10 miles. Thick fog swirled below the mountain, resembling a vast ocean, with peaks emerging from the sea of clouds, akin to immortal Taoist practice grounds. The sea of clouds stretched endlessly, as if this place truly was above the 9 heavens, with the sun directly overhead. Ji Hantian leaned against the courtyard door with his arms crossed in front of his chest and eyes closed. Judging by his furrowed brows, his mood was not good. Ji Qingkuan came to Ji Hantian's side, smiling, "Grandpa, the auspicious hour is near." Chapter 248. Heaven and Earth Flying Immortal, 1 sword to sever. Impudent. Seeing Ji Xiaoyu summon a phantom that directly annihilated the great cultivator of the Luo family, the other Luo family cultivators were instantly enraged. They each brought out their own Dharma treasures, prepared to kill her on the spot. Luo Yetian was about to speak when the phantom behind Ji Xiaoyu suddenly erupted with golden flames, sweeping in all directions. The cultivators from all directions were too late to dodge and could only instinctively use spiritual power and mana to resist. As the golden flames swept past, the entire world suddenly changed. The sky turned crimson and countless meteors fell from the distance. Each meteor stirred up a shock wave, creating a breathtaking spectacle. Ji Xiaoyu stood high above, a trace of blood seeping from the corner of her mouth, but her brows did not knit together, remaining indifferent. The phantom behind her ignited with golden flames, and the Tao patterns on its forehead flickered with a strange light. She raised her right hand to her mouth, muttering something, and layers of golden glyphs burst forth from her body, expanding rapidly to dominate the entire sky in less than 3 breaths. I didn't expect the primordial Taoist talisman to contain will. I wonder which ancient predecessor it is that we have disturbed? An elderly voice rang out as an old man in a gray robe appeared, blocking in front of Luo Yetian. Luo Yetian quickly raised his hand to salute him, his demeanor respectful. The old man in the gray robe did not turn around, his gaze fixed intently on the golden phantom behind Ji Xiaoyu. A loose immortal is not enough, Ji Xiaoyu's voice rang out once more. The gray-robed old man's face changed dramatically, and he immediately took out a jade staff. Boom! A horrifying wave of golden flames rushed towards him. The gray-robed old man used his mana to resist, but Luo Yetian behind him still felt the searing pain. This pain was not just on the surface, even his soul felt the agony. How is this possible? Who exactly is she? Luo Yetian thought in disbelief. The Ji family members below were equally astonished. Was Ji Xiaoyu's primordial Taoist talisman really containing such terrifying power? Ji Qingquan suddenly remembered what Ji Xiaoyu had told him 3 years ago, and a chill ran down his spine. The gray-robed old man, possessing loose immortal cultivation, couldn't withstand the vast golden flames. Blood spots appeared on his skin as did on Luo Yishan's behind him. The other Luo family great cultivators attacked from different directions, but their mana quickly dissolved as it approached the golden flames, unable to harm Ji Xiaoyu. The mountains trembled as if they were about to collapse, startling the cultivators in their caves. More and more people flew into the sky, looking at Ji Xiaoyu in disbelief. Under their gaze, the golden phantom behind Ji Xiaoyu raised its right hand, drawing cracks across the sky with its fingertips. When her hand stopped, the space along the path shattered instantly, golden flames coiling around the edges of the space rift, forming a gigantic halo. The blood spilling from Ji Xiaoyu's mouth increased, but her eyes remained calm. The golden phantom behind her drew a giant golden fan from the halo, its surface shaped like maple leaves, covered with glyphs as if hiding numerous worlds. As the giant golden fan descended, the world began to collapse, space twisted and shattered, clouds dispersed and giant peaks crumbled. The cultivators residing in this land scattered like headless flies, in extreme panic. Retreat with the people. The gray-robed old man's voice was low and solemn as he resisted the golden flames, having transformed into a man of blood. Luo Yetian behind him was slightly better, but his skin also began to ulcerate. Luo Yetian gritted his teeth, just about to turn and leave. At that moment, the golden phantom behind Ji Xiaoyu suddenly swung the fan. A wave of burning flames swept across half of the sky, vaporizing all the cultivators along the way. Gray-robed old man and Luo Yetian couldn't escape. As the flame wave passed, both of them turned into light stars, their bodies and souls annihilated, scattering like falling sparks. This scene left the Ji family cultivators and other clan cultivators stunned and terrified. Ji Xiaoyu tilted her head, looking down at Ji Qingquan. The Ji family cultivators were extremely tense, not daring to meet her gaze. Everyone within the Ji family knew that the family had planned to sacrifice her. She didn't truly wish to marry. With so many dead from the Luo family, how will the Ji family live in the future? Ji Xiaoyu's icy voice reached the ears of the Ji family members. Ji Qingquan, Ji Hantian, and the others felt a chill rise from their hearts, spreading throughout their bodies. Ji Xiaoyu's eyes began to fill with blood, quickly turning blood red. Xiaoyu, what exactly do you want to do? Ji Hantian quickly asked. Apart from the Luo family, no other families had suffered from the golden flames, making other clan cultivators silently sigh in relief. Ji Xiaoyu's eyes, now blood-red, raced to look towards the horizon. At the end of the world appeared a massive black rift from which silhouettes flew out, rapidly approaching. These figures all had an aura stronger than the previous gray-robed old man. A horrifying killing intent locked onto Ji Xiaoyu. Ji Xiaoyu raised her right hand, and the golden phantom behind her mirrored the motion with its giant golden fan. At that moment, a figure appeared before her. Her eyes widened in surprise, showing clear shock despite the blood covering them. Guan, wielding the 9 extreme yin-yang body, stood before Ji Xiaoyu. He held a sword in each hand, one being the heavenly residence sword, the other the Qinghong sword, both shrouded in dark purple demonic qi hiding their true forms. Facing the approaching great cultivators from afar, Guan casually swung his swords. The sword light illuminated the world. A streak of sword chi, like a white rainbow, swept across the sky. The great cultivators of the seven-star spirit realm attacking Ji Xiaoyu were swallowed by the sword chi before they could even see Guan's form, turned to ash and vanished. You have successfully taken 590 years of lifespan from Luo Ku, 7th level of Lu's Immortal realm. You have successfully taken 387 years of lifespan from Daoist Junlan, 9th level of Lu's Immortal realm. You have successfully taken 1032 years of lifespan from Lu Changfeng, 7th level of Lu's Immortal realm. One by one, notifications appeared before Guan's eyes. Guan turned to look at the devastated Ji Xiaoyu, deeply alarmed. The power of this primordial Daoist talisman was astonishing. It was already comparable to the wandering immortal realm. However, Ji Xiaoyu was struggling to withstand it. Her life force was fading rapidly. He spoke, "Withdraw your divine skill." He used the voice of Sword Venerable Fudao, hoarse and steady. Ji Xiaoyu smiled and said, "Reincarnation has begun, and it cannot be reversed." Guan's gaze shifted to the golden phantom behind her. He could see that the soul aura of the golden phantom was identical to Ji Xiaoyu's. This power must have originated from somewhere else, summoned rather than hidden within her. He tried a lifespan detection on the golden phantom but found nothing. "Sword Venerable, have you come specifically to assist me?" Ji Xiaoyu suddenly asked. Guan replied, "I came to annihilate the seven-star spirit realm." Ji Xiaoyu's eyes bled as she smiled. "This life was too short, Sword Venerable. If we are fated, we shall meet again in the future." Her body suddenly burst forth with golden light and then scattered. A golden talisman appeared, absorbing the surrounding golden light into itself, and then quickly merged into the golden phantom. Guan's gaze fell on the giant fan in the hands of the golden phantom, feeling the terrifying power within it. This treasure was no weaker than the divine exotic city, and it wasn't even a physical object, just manifested power. The golden phantom swung its fan, and an overwhelming wave of golden flames soared overhead, breaking through the heavens. The terrifying spiritual energy surged in from the minor heaven and earth outside. A burst of intense light erupted from the distant darkness, a presence beyond a wandering immortal realm approaching, extremely fast. Heaven and earth flying immortal. This heaven and earth flying immortal raised his palm to strike, intending to annihilate the golden phantom with one blow. The golden phantom immediately raised its fan to defend. Rumble, the heavens trembled and space collapsed and twisted. Guan stood beneath the fan, looking up at the giant golden fan, filled with curiosity about this treasure. "Sword Venerable, my power won't hold for long." Ji Xiaoyu's voice sounded tired. The golden phantom's arm trembled, the fan moving closer to Guan, unable to withstand the power of the heaven and earth flying immortal. Guan focused, using lifespan detection on the heaven and earth flying immortal. Earth Gang Divine Lord, first layer of Heaven and Earth Flying Immortal Realm 129080/23000/250000. A Heaven and Earth Flying Immortal who had lived for 12,000 years. Guan took a step, crossing the distance of two formidable powers, appearing in front of the Earth Gang Divine Lord. The Earth Gang Divine Lord's face changed dramatically, disbelief showing on his face. Sword light flashed, sword chi burst forth. With one slash, Guan annihilated the Earth Gang Divine Lord body and soul in an instant. The terrifying force even pushed back the Golden Phantom. The Golden Phantom, holding the giant fan, looked at Guan's back, its features changing, clearly startled by Guan's power. "I underestimated you, Sword Venerable. I look forward to meeting you again," Ji Xiaoyu's voice sounded. Immediately after, the Golden Phantom scattered, merging into the primordial Taoist talisman. The primordial Taoist talisman tore through space and quickly disappeared. Guan turned to see the Ji family cultivators retreating. Amid the crowd, Ji Hantian seemed to sense something and looked back, meeting his gaze. At that moment, Ji Hantian felt a mix of shock and guilt. He was shocked at Sword Venerable Fudeo's invincible presence in the seven-star spirit realm, and guilt-ridden for seemingly disappointing the elder. He had always thought that the righteous path, inscribed on the heavenly repair platform, was left by Sword Venerable Fudao, hoping he could lead the supreme sect onto the righteous path. The fiery aura in the sky surged like tidal waves. A blink of an eye later, Ji Hantian could no longer see Sword Venerable Fudeo's figure. Guan took one step across space, arriving at a vast white jade square where thousands of disciples of the seven-star spirit realm were meditating, all facing a grand palace ahead. No one noticed Guan's arrival. Guan's gaze shifted to the palace, feeling the presence of another heaven and earth flying immortal hidden within. It quickly melted, turning not into water but a wisp of white gas. This is, Yang Jian frowned, sensing an elusive aura from the snowflake. This aura intrigued him and he immediately reached out to grab more snowflakes. Yu Yingying, who was playing chess with an Xian, looked up. Snow in summer, what kind of omen is this? I've never seen it before, an Xian muttered. Yu Yingying reached out, catching a snowflake. It turned into a wisp of white gas and dissipated. Her expression changed slightly and she whispered, "Heavenly snowfall, snow turning to gas, this is abnormal. Could it be the legendary sign of an immortal's fall?" An Xian asked curiously, "What is the sign of an immortal's fall?" Yu Yingying replied, "I've heard that when a high Dao level immortal falls, heaven and earth would produce an anomaly, as a testament to their lives' cultivation achievements." An immortal's fall? Is it on this continent or overseas? An Xian asked curiously. Yu Yingying looked up, her eyes complex, and answered, "Probably on this continent." Throughout the Supreme Sect, any cultivator exposed to sunlight was discussing this sudden anomaly in heaven and earth. Yilan also stepped out of her room and into the courtyard. She looked up with furrowed brows. Miles away, Wuju was similarly affected. Yet, he seemed to attain an almost mystical state, as if comprehending something. In the great Jiang dynasty in the Juhua sect, Jiang Qiong and the ghost mother of ephemera stood on the cliff's edge, reaching out to catch snowflakes. A sign of an immortal's fall. It appears the conflict between the seven-star spirit realm and the star sea congregations has reached an irreconcilable point. A high Dao level immortal has fallen, the ghost mother of ephemera said, frowning with worry. Jiang Qiong smiled, "The more fiercely they fight, the better it is for us." Despite her words, she felt an inexplicable unease, as if something bad was about to happen. In the seven-star spirit realm, the thunderclouds spread, forming a giant vortex. A golden mirror floated in the vortex, its edges carved with patterns of various divine beasts, the mirror surface a deep blue, surrounded by crimson flames. Immortal Path Supreme Treasure, the Seven Stars Mirror. In front of the Seven Stars Mirror, a figure floated. He wore a long purple robe with two fiery red orbs hovering over his shoulders like suns. Behind him was a crescent moon, from which wisps of spiritual energy emanated, forming colorful clouds around him. He looked down at Guan from above. Realm Master of Heavenly Meaning, Heaven and Earth Flying Immortal Realm, 7th Layer 187034/42000/490000. Guan looked at this man's lifespan with slight satisfaction. In this heaven and earth, a total of 7 heaven and earth flying immortals had appeared. Only the 7 stars mirror remained in the sky. The 10,000-foot-high 7 stars mirror quickly withdrew its aura. The mirror body trembled for a while and then began to fall. You have successfully taken 25,709 years of life from the Realm Master of Heavenly Meaning, 7th layer of the Heaven and Earth Flying Immortal Realm. You have successfully taken 10,041 years of life from the 10,000 miles Divine Lord, 3rd layer of the Heaven and Earth Flying Immortal Realm. You have successfully taken 18,116 years of life from the Divine Lord Shaoleng, 5th layer of the Heaven and Earth Flying Immortal Realm. A total of 6 messages appeared in front of Guan, making Guan secretly puzzled. Why was one person missing? Guan remembered that person, named Thousand-Faced Divine Lord, with a cultivation level of the 4th layer of the Heaven and Earth Flying Immortal Realm. He clearly felt that the 7 Heaven and Earth Flying Immortals all turned to ashes, and it was impossible for anyone to escape. Could it be that this person had other avatars? So, why could he still sense their lifespan? Guan's divine sense quickly enveloped the continent and kept expanding but couldn't find any trace of the Thousand-Faced Divine Lord. This opened his eyes. The Thousand-Faced Divine Lord was quite a character, able to escape from his hands, even more capable than the Realm Master of Heavenly Meaning at the 7th layer of the Heaven and Earth Flying Immortal Realm. Guan suddenly gained more than 80,000 years of life. Previously, when he killed the cultivators of the Luo family, he had also gained more than 50,000 years of life. This time he gained nearly 130,000 years of life, which was quite good, saving him months of effort. The most important thing was to eliminate potential threats. Guan raised his hand, storing the now shrunken 7 stars mirror in his hand. He probed it with his divine sense, overbearingly destroying layers of restrictions, quickly finding the immortal spirit, and forcibly making it acknowledge him as its master. The storm in the world was still surging. The cultivators on the square looked up, remaining silent for a while before accepting the fact that they had survived. Thump. A cultivator suddenly knelt down, facing Guan, and began to kowtow. With someone taking the lead, others followed suit and kowtowed. Over 10,000 people bowed to Guan, making a rather magnificent scene. It is up to you to change the 7-star spirit realm on this land. If it continues to be like before, named as a holy land but practicing evil, I will return. Then it won't be just the high-ranking members who will die. Guan's voice rang out, and he slashed towards the palace with the Qinghong sword in his left hand. Boom! A sword chi swept out, forcefully splitting the palace into two, immediately turning it into ashes.